Immigration has become the defining challenge of our generation. Communities are under attack because our US policies are pushing people into the shadows. How we respond to this challenge will determine how we are remembered and who we are. That is why Raíces exists.
Raíces is a nonprofit organization that offers legal services to the immigrant community.
The vast majority of our clients have zero resources, and we try to help them pro bono.
We work with people who no one else will work with. We work with people who are in detention, women, children. We work with people who've been detained at the border.
We work with families who are intact. We work with families who've been separated. We work with people whose families have rejected them because they might be transgender. We work with people who come from war zones whose families have all been killed. We try and take every case, and when we do, we see it through until the end.
I look at our clients and I see my own family. I am the product of an immigrant family's journey.
Many of us that work for this organization are immigrants ourselves.
I'm a former refugee from Iraq. I came in 2010. My clients have the same story as mine.
My grandpa was an immigrant from Cuba, and really when I look at my clients, I think of him and I think of the rest of my family.
As someone who came to this country undocumented, I feel privileged and honored that I'm able to do this.
We believe that the Constitution extends to all people in the United States, including immigrants.
We believe that everyone has a right to due process.
We believe that no person is illegal.
We believe that refugees are supposed to be in the United States.
I mean, we believe that families should remain intact, and there's no reason to separate them at the border as punishment.
We're committed to people. We're not committed to parties. We're committed to the people.
We believe that we're all human beings and we deserve to be treated well.
Raíces was founded in 1986 and born from the sanctuary movement, which itself was a response to immigration policies in the early 80s that really made it impossible for Central American refugees to seek protection here in the United States.
It was a two-person office to begin with. We didn't have air conditioning or heat. We were distributing food, clothing, had medical care. We weren't doing visa work until probably around 2000.
When I started at Raíces almost 20 years ago, we were only 3 people, okay? 1 attorney, another legal assistant, and myself.
We've been here for a long time, and yes, we've met each crisis as it's come.
We just need to keep growing and growing because there is a lot of people out there that needs our help.
We have a family detention program. We prepare people for their credible fear interviews.
We're in the detention centers every day, talking to our clients, hearing their stories.
We have a children's program. We provide legal presentations for the children's rights.
Children need representation while they're still in detention. Otherwise, they would go to court alone.
We have community immigration services, which can range from renewing an application for DACA to applying for citizenship to applying for a visa on behalf of a crime victim.
We have a refugee resettlement program.
We help them to adjust into this country. We help them with housing and food and medical.
But also when they move to other cities in this country and need continuing services.
It's really about creating those partnerships with the community to make sure that our new community members feel welcome and safe and protected.
Last year I was almost deported, and Raíces came in, and without knowing anything about me, they helped me, and I don't think I would be there if Raíces hadn't helped.
I hope that one day our clients can be able to walk out on the street without a fear in their hearts. I want to be able to have a country where we can welcome asylum-seeking families in a system that isn't designed for them to fail.
They're a grassroots kind of organization that helps the community at the most basic level. They went out of their way to help me, and because of them, I'm able to keep going to school. I'm able to keep the life that my dad brought me here to build.
When you work at Raíces, you actually get to witness our nation being born anew. Every time we work with a client, you're literally watching the beginning moments of one of those stories that we hear about. We talk about our forefathers. We actually work with people who will be the mothers and fathers of the future generation of Americans.
The most patriotic people that I've ever met are new immigrants. The most ambitious people, the most qualified people. These are the best people that their countries are sending. Why would you want to close the door on that?
We've been doing this work for more than 30 years. We were here before. We're here now, and we're not going anywhere. Immigration has become the defining challenge of our generation. Communities are under...
Wrong one. Hi, everybody. It is 4 a.m. in the morning. So there might be some, moving around of things. But welcome to everybody who's tuned in. And thank you so much for joining us this morning, this very bright and early morning. First of all, let me go over who the prize winners are. I know all of you are dying to know who won from our previous show. First up, congratulations, Neo Gabby, for winning the 1 year plus subscription for Roll20. And Acadian Rhythm, you have won a $20 Modifius gift certificate for the store. And Bell Weather, congrats, you have won the Mecha Hack PDF by Absolute Tabletop to just basically message on, whisper to the Welcome Party RPG. For your and give your details and just let us know that you're in chat and we will take care of that right quick. So with that being said, let us get into the reason why we're all here. We are currently we have about 18 hours left for, despite what our current timer says, we are running our stream until 10 p.m. Eastern Time here on this channel tonight. So we have about 18 hours and we have raised $2,800, which is amazing. Our goal is to hit 5,000 and we are raising this money for Raíces. Raíces Texas is a non-profit organization that offers pro bono legal assistance to immigrant and refugee communities. They are on the front lines of immigration debate, making sure that people who are crossing the border are afforded due process and dignity with the belief that no person is illegal and that families should remain intact and that every person who crosses the border should be treated with compassion and humanity. We're raising all our funds directly through Tiltify, so please hit the donate button below. And if you sub or bit, these will if you give us your bits or give us subscriptions, they will not count towards the total. You need to donate to the Tiltify link. We will be doing giveaways throughout the stream. We've been doing them pretty much every 2 hours. We will be doing one at the break and also at the end of the game. We will deal with those as we go. All right. So now that all of those messages are taken care of, we will now go around the table and let's hear a little bit more about our players and our characters. We are playing D&D 5e today, ish. And we are playing in my campaign setting that I am currently working on, Sarzameen. And we are all taking part, we are all villagers in a Bungan village, the name of which we will reveal very soon. But for now, let's go around the virtual table, so to speak. And Sam, if you would like to tell me who you are, where we can find you on the internet, and a quick blurb, like 10-second blurb about your character.
Hi, I am Sam. You can find me on Twitter at Sam ULIANO #1. And I am also the co-host of a podcast called Sounds Dicey, which is a podcast about role-playing games, for role-playing games, by role-playing games, as we like to say. And I am playing the character Prachi. Prachi is a elf bard who is been stuck in our sweet little town for a little too long.
Awesome. Next, we have our very own Nerdy Daddy.
Hi, yeah, I'm Nitty Titty. I run and play games on the channel. You can find me on Twitter. I retweet some things and mostly, shout out when I'm playing and what I'm doing. So check that out, and definitely check out Millennium Nights this Thursday.
Awesome. And what character are you playing today?
Oh, I'm sorry. I am doing several things at once now, so sorry about that. I'm playing Surma.
Okay. And next up, we have Mike.
Hi, I'm on Twitter at Cynicalese, and I am playing Sunil Banerjee, who is just a very old wizard type who likes to teach the children and help around town. And that's it. Nothing else about him. He just gets drunk with Prachi a lot. Kind of works.
All right, and last but not least, the cat in charge, Joe.
Hi, I'm Joe. I go by they, them pronouns, and I haven't done a live stream before, but I do podcasts sometimes, and I have a weekly one, which used to be called What We Do in Barovia. And right now we're kind of going through a little bit of a change, but episodes should be coming up. You can check that out at welcome_Barovia. It's something like that. You can find me on Twitter at Sleepless Seymour with only 2 S's in the middle. And I do a lot of D&D. Sometimes I do cosplay. And I'm just kind of a huge nerd. I like cats a whole lot. And I'm going to be playing Babel today. Babel is a tiefling. She's a druid shepherd. Druid Circle of the Shepherd. And she's a older kind of matronly figure, and she is a tree guardian. She basically cares for this nice little patch of land in the village, and she's
Okay. So let me set the scene a little bit for all of our chat viewers. We are in the town of people. It is, yes, it does sound a lot like the English word people, but this is Peepal, which is it's a particular type of a mangrove tree. So in this somewhat remote Banga village, which is about several days south of Koldak, which is the capital city of this particular region. This village is several days south of the capital city and is on the edge of the Sundarban, or the beautiful forest. It is a large, expansive mangrove forest. To the north of this village is a freshwater river which is teeming with river fish, and to the east is the outskirts of this forest, where a particular tree, which is now in the center of the villages, which I will let the players go on a little bit in a moment. And to the west of this village is where all the crops of the village are grown, including most of their paddy fields. And further south of the village, if you go about a half a day's journey away, you will find the sea, which is the domain of a great elemental known as Sagar. With this visual setting being put, let's go over what actually happens in a day of the village of people. So, people. Who would probably wake up first as dawn approaches?
Probably, I would imagine, I don't know, Prachi, you're probably hungover.
No.
Not Prachi.
I don't think it counts if you're still awake from the night before.
Technically, you'd be going to bed at this hour.
Yeah. Probably me or Babel.
The old people.
I think Babel's kind of the dawn riser. She does all of her rites and things, and then she gets prepared to nap for the rest of the day.
Yeah. I don't know. Surma, what time do you wake up?
Probably not long after you would, because I have messages and such to deliver.
Gotcha. So yeah, I'm probably up having some tea. I'm probably up having tea, wandering around town. I perhaps we're sitting and having tea together. Babel? Morning tea? Yes.
Absolutely, I think so.
And then Surma comes out. Yes. Got to prepare. Is it class today? Is it nature class? I pull out a big folio of just scheduling.
Yes, in the afternoon, once all of the kids are back from the farm.
Good. Morning, Surma.
Morning.
Poor tea. I love the morning. And I just kind of wander off. I get up and just kind of wander off.
All right.
And if I'm Sunil, to everyone, he is kind of he's an elf. I forgot to say, and he's very old and he's tall, but he's hunched over a little bit, and he walks slightly bow-legged. But if you could imagine him standing up straight, he would actually be quite an imposing figure. But his countenance is not.
I was about to say the same thing about Babel. She's maybe 6-something, and she hunches over because she's super old. She's got this big walking stick, so no one really knows how tall she is.
And Sunil has a cane. He doesn't seem to use it too much, but he has one.
Okay, so how does your day go by? And at this point, it can be a little freeform. I will start with the early risers. As dawn turns into morning and turns into afternoon, what does your day look like?
Teaching children, trying to find a balance between scaring the hell out of them, but also being a good teacher. You know, it's a balance. Teaching them some of the arcane maths and novice spell work if they have the mind for it, or the talent for it. They all have the talent for it. They're all beautiful, wonderful children. And then, as after lunch, sometimes, since this is an off day, not an off day, and every other day, I take them to see Babel at the Grove for more of the nature-y things.
Then Babel then becomes Miss On, because her full name is Babel Onael Kadadas. Most people call her Babylon or Babel. And she, in the morning before the kids arrive, will be spending time with her mentor, Kieran, and her apprentice, Babita. And then they pretty much do the normal sort of tending to the garden. She has beehives that she takes care of. And then she will teach the kids about nature, its importance, a little bit of religion, a little bit of medicine. She doesn't do a lot of magical healing, but mostly kind of very scientific things. And then pretty much after the class starts to disperse, she will go down for a nap, which will last anywhere from 2 to 8 hours unless somebody will wake her up for it. And if Prachi comes by, then she has a little pan flute that she will play a little song with him.
Okay, so Prachi, since
Yeah.
you basically go to sleep almost at dawn or around dawn, what time does he wake up?
Prachi gets up between noon and 3 in the afternoon. And when he gets up, he takes a long, leisurely breakfast. And then he heads around his day. So most of his mornings consist of going to the local gathering place, which is kind of the outside center of town, and getting into everybody's business, making sure he's aware of everything that's going on in the town, if there's anybody who really needs his advice about anything, because he gives really good advice. And then he sets about his actual work, which is he goes to visit Babel in the Grove. He takes some of her honey often with him to take home to make honey wine, and while he's there, they usually play some music together. And then by that time, it's usually later in the afternoon. So he might, on the off days, he goes to see Sunil and takes over teaching the children of the town performing arts, oration, speech and debate, anything that has that you need to do to be charismatic and also maybe a little socially crafty. And then he finds somebody in town to drink with until early in the morning.
And Surma, what's your day like?
My day is mostly whatever messages I have to deliver. I ride around and deliver them. She definitely stops a lot to tell, especially the children, if they're out and about, out of class and stuff, some story about fending off bandits or something as she delivers her messages. But it's mostly pretty simple. She just delivers messages and tells stories.
Does Prachi try and pump Sarah for gossip, and you're just like, nope.
Probably.
Probably.
Okay. Is there anything else that any of you do during a regular day of the village?
I will also say when I wake up in the morning as the early morning fishermen are making their rounds, starting to get ready, I to the best of my ability, I bless them, as is my wont as a cleric, just to give them a little oomph in their day. I bless them with divine math.
What is this divine math?
It's me rolling 2 dice, and I mean that literally. I have 2 dice, and I throw them on the ground, and regardless of the number, I bless them. They're fine. But then when I'm teaching the children, it's actual math. It's geometry, and teaching them angles of things that could be construed as warfare, but probably not if you were nice about it. But how to shoot a bow, like angles of shooting a bow, that sort of thing.
So I think you've been in the village long enough that nobody really questions your morning blessings. As odd as it may appear to someone not from this village, it is just taken as that's basically. In fact, there's probably second and third generations who think this is how blessings happen.
They're just throwing two blank dice. They're blank. And
and is there anything else that is part of the daily routine?
Please go ahead.
Sorry.
No, by all means.
Babel is kind of a very matronly figure for the whole village, even though that she's in her early hundreds, but there's still some people who are much older than her. But as the kind of a tree guardian, she's sort of the sage-like person that people go to for wise and cryptic advice from an old woman. And if there's maybe an emergency, she's also sort of the healer of the village. So maybe, someone falls and breaks their leg and has to be rushed over so that she can patch them up. Or just, again, cryptic advice, very sort of grand cosmic philosophical waxing, and you don't really leave with any more answers than you came in with.
It's like throwing dice. Throwing blank dice.
Speaking of not getting answers, Prachi, near the end of his cups at around 4 a.m, usually takes on a bit of a morose mood and wants to be alone, during which he usually writes a few letters and then talks to himself in the mirror for a very long time. And then right when he's done with that, usually as morning is getting started, he actually goes out and finds Surma and asks her to take the messages to the city of Koldak. And then he goes to bed.
Okay. Yeah. So as this day ends and a new one begins, and another day ends and a new one begins as life continues in the village, as a new dawn approaches, Sunil, you wake up, you have your morning ritual with Babel. And just as Surma is getting ready for the day to start delivering messages to nearby villages and within the village, you all hear the sound of horses approaching the village. This village is it's on flatlands and in fact on flood plains. Words are hard. You hear about maybe, like a few minutes before you can actually, before they approach the center of this town. You hear in the distance coming from the north, about from where you can see maybe there's 3, 4, you're not quite sure how many horses there are. You see them in the distance, sort of cloud rising off as the path is being flung up by horses as they are approaching. Unfortunately, Prachi is completely asleep at this hour. However, Surma, you know that if it is coming from the north, and especially if there's horses, probably means some sort of a missive from Koldak of some sort. Your landowner, whose estates that this village sits upon, is in Koldak, and the village of people is more like their vacationing home. They show up maybe once a year at the most, usually once every couple of years. So you all wonder if maybe this is the missive from your Zamindar, which is the title given to your landowner, whether they're going to be arriving. As the horses approach, you see a sight that is quite unfamiliar, actually. What you see as they're approaching is a is 3 horses. 2 of them flanking the one that's in the middle and is leading this group. On the front horse, there is an elven rider dressed in ostentatious clothes made of red and gold brocade. And it's something you've never seen before, and Sunil in particular. Doesn't look like any sort of Koldak fripperies or fashions. In fact, if you would like to make a perception check, I can maybe give you a little more information as they approach.
I wouldn't recognize this from the small amount of background we've talked about before.
Okay.
For a history check, I was just wondering, history or perception, you said?
Either would do, actually. And... Ooh, yeah, so you know this is definitely not from Koldak, and you wonder, they don't even look like anything that's in this region. Their fashion looks very foreign. As they approach... Yeah, go ahead.
I turn to Babel and I go, they look very foreign. And then I hand her tea. My tea is terrible, but you humor me by drinking 1 cup of it. Yes. I assume you make the best tea in the place.
She's very old.
She dumps it out when I'm not looking.
Yeah.
Prachi, how deep of a sleeper are you?
Not very.
All right.
Especially when there's horses coming. I've been waiting for this for a while.
Yeah, your tingly senses that are like you would be dead to the world, but if you hear the sound of horses, you're up instantly.
Yes.
You feel like there's this. How do you feel hearing these horse feet?
So excited. I'm putting on my best clothes, which are just kind of thrown about the room. I'm putting on a really nice kurta and lungi, a pair of lungi, and combing my hair with my fingers, putting on all my jewelry, checking my face, make sure my makeup from the night before still looks good, and then I fling my door open, and I'm ready.
As you do, you see the riders, and if you would like to give me a perception or a history check, you may also do so.
All right.
Okay, so you look at it and you know for sure this is not Koldak fashions. In fact, the last time you were there, these looked like some foreigners, maybe, it's really hard. It was like some foreign traders from the west, far west, really far away. They were maybe like Sikandari. They called themselves Sikandari, or they come from like Sikandar.
All right. So once he realizes they're not from Koldak, Prachi starts taking his clothes off and about to turn inside, and then he stops and he thinks, he's like, oh, it could be interesting. So he goes and gets his half full glass of wine and heads back outside to greet Sunil. And,
as soon as I see you with the wine, I chuck my tea and I'm like, yes.
I just hand the stale wine over to Sunil.
Yeah, this should be all right. What is this, Prachi? Who are they?
That fashion, it looks secondary to me, but I have been out of court for some time, so, anything is possible, really.
Is Surma here?
Yeah, Surma would have just been heading out, so it's up to you whether you stay or whether you go ahead of going about doing your business.
Oh yeah, I'd stay.
Surma, you know anything about this?
Hold on.
You have no idea.
Did get a 16 on my perception, but I don't have a whole lot of information.
However, what information you do get just by looking at the riders behind and the outfit, you get the sense that this might be some sort of a herald of some kind, and the two flanking this herald look like they're probably just because you have the intelligence and wisdom to sort of know what bodyguards look like. The two behind are bodyguards of some kind. However, they don't, as they're now literally maybe a few feet away as they are stopping, and the village is starting to gather closer with basically all of the current Elder Council members making a line and wondering what's going on. You notice that instead of like what normal mercs or like bodyguards on the road would be having some sort of a sword, maybe a bow, they seem to only have to like a stave each, just hanging. They might be magic users of some kind. And that's the information you get when they stop in front of you. And this elven rider sort of from her perch looks down at all of you. I mean, because she's on a horse, but also there's you get the sense that there is a little bit of disdain at the end of her nose as she clears her throat and says pulls out this elaborate scroll and reads out to this village of people is now under the eminent domain of the Secondary Trading Consortium, as granted by the Zamindar Debojit people. You know Zamindar Debojit people is the official name of your landowner. As such, all the surrounding lands and its assets and resources, including the workers, are now subject to the will and laws of the Secondary Trading Consortium. If anyone no longer wishes to remain under new management, they may leave this lands peaceably within 30 days of receiving this missive. If any workers leave after this grace period, they will be treated as absconding from the Secondary Trading Consortium, and further action shall be taken in response to the severity of the offense. Any disputes with this missive must be sent to the Koldak Land Commission within 1 calendar week of the issue of this missive, and then scrolls it up and looks at all of you.
I real slowly turn towards Prachi and I go, this wine is fucking terrible, Prachi.
Yeah, it's not the best. You
Hail! Sorry, go ahead.
Hail and well met, stranger. You said Zaminder people set this up? He's just cool with this?
Yes.
Did he say anything about me?
Oh, for God's sakes, Prachi.
And looks at you and says, and who might you be?
I'm Prachi, and if he didn't say anything about me, well, then I just don't know what to do.
Let's get the Elder Council. You need to at least herald them. And I turn around and wait several very long seconds. And then I turn around real slow. Okay, you were saying?
He does a full 360 and goes,
Yeah,
full manager.
Can I see that? Can I see that scroll? Can I?
And this herald, sort of rides up to you and doesn't get off the horse and just hands it to you. You kind of have to reach up to grab it.
Just like scanning it, looking for my own name. Just looking more and more distressed.
And I just kind of lean over to Surma and whisper, Surma, you haven't heard of this going around any of the other villages, have you?
Have I, Nia?
You have not. This is the first you've heard of it.
No, this is the first I've heard of it.
You know,
I do not like it.
They say peaceably. Bravo, does it sound peaceable?
Well, so far, they do not seem to be enacting any violence upon us. However, I would like to know more about this Secondary Trading Consortium, which we are now under, apparently. And she'll kind of look at the horse rider. Would Babel or anyone know anything about the Secondary Training Consortium? Have we heard of this place before? Or organization?
I would say Prachi could probably, being the only one who may have heard of it and had done. I would allow you to make a history check or an intelligence check, essentially, to remember if you'd ever heard of it.
Okay. Here you go. Oh, no.
Yeah, no.
She slept through those days at the college.
And in
Prachi is absorbed in this scroll.
Once again, I see Prachi struggling, and I'm like, you really should work on this batch of wine, Prachi. I don't think it's doing us any favors.
Oh, I don't think so, Sunil. Yeah, I mostly just remember their fashion, to be honest. And it's droll.
Well,
you notice as you're looking, as all of you are looking, that what they're wearing is very ostentatious, and not just that, very impractical for the weather.
Yes.
And it's very impractical for the weather as well.
This may sound like a weird question. Are their horses smaller and stouter, or are they tall, not really made for work? Are they refined horses?
They are not war horses. They are more like draft horses for like long distance
Gotcha.
courier horses, essentially.
Gotcha.
And you notice that they're actually got some really fancy barding and gelding on them. And at this point, the herald sort of goes, who is the owner or the person in charge over here, so that I may know what message to take back?
We're all at the people tree right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we all gesture at the people tree.
Yeah, exactly. Turns and points. Babel will very slowly get to her feet. She takes a full 45 seconds of everyone's precious time getting to a standing position. And then she takes a spare cup of tea and she'll hand it up to the herald in a very kind gesture. And she says, if there is any message that will be sent back, it will have to be given after a very short conference between the council. My name is Babel Oneal Karadas, and I am the keeper of this tree.
So the tree makes all your decisions for you. Huh.
It's the people tree.
Yes, that is correct.
It is the people tree. They are correct.
Huh.
We are the people.
No wonder they gambled it away. And we'll wait for you to have your conference sort of respectfully away.
Did we actually hear that?
Yes, they made no pains about trying to say it under their breath or anything.
So Prachi, we're kind of distant cousins, but you are more closely related to the estate owners, the original estate owners, I think, than I am, right?
Yes.
Prachi, what the hell is it? Your father?
No, I think it's like a distant cousin I wronged.
Yeah, like
Prachi.
second or third removed or something.
Yeah.
Prachi, what the hell did our cousins do?
Well, it sounds like they gambled us away, Sunil, and they didn't even write me in the letter. They didn't even say that I could go back.
I fold Prachi into my arm. I'm like, come on, Prachi.
Didn't even say my name's not even here. What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to become a rice farmer now? I don't have the
You'd make a much better fisherman, Prachi, not a rice farmer. It's okay.
You're right. You're right about that. I'd be a great fisherman.
You'd be a great fisherman. So we go somewhere to at least talk. Do we wake up some other adults? I mean, like there's people out.
Whoever's part of the Elder Council and whoever, I will leave it up to all of you, the players, how council meetings are held. Whether it is only the Elder Council involved or whether it is the entire village, and it's led by the Elder Council. How does a council meeting happen in this village? It is a village of 100 people, including all of you.
Yeah, we're kind of an autonomous collective, so I think we would include everybody on this.
Yeah.
Even the little kids.
Yeah.
And you notice,
especially the little kids,
especially the children, they have the finest minds to mold.
As you're assembling everyone to have a meeting, you see almost a sneer appear on the elf. Sort of like, you're not quite sure what it's for, but it's kind of this very silently judging all of you.
Babel meets it with a very, very patient smile. And did she take the cup of tea at all?
Is it your tea or is it Sunil's tea?
I think it's Babel's tea. I think that Babel and Sunil both make their own pot of tea, and then just kind of, it's like the equivalent of like gift giving, I guess.
The elven rider doesn't step down to accept it, but just puts her hand out and takes it and sniffs it and sort of inspects it a little before taking the most polite of sips and then not really drinking from it again.
Okay, yeah, if she doesn't hand the cup back, then Babel will just kind of like leave it with her as everyone slowly goes to the opposite side of the tree to have this little conference. Yeah, and she'll kind of nestle down in a little spot amongst the roots, and we'll look at the the rest of her council and the rest of her village, and says, does anyone know very much about the secondary trading consortium and what sort of let's see, I'm looking at what's their wills and their laws that we are going to be under is now?
Well,
I know that they have awful fashion.
Terrible. And they also gave us 1 month. I will say, in my experience, trading companies are never the best of news that I've ever heard of.
How long does it even take to get back to the secondary?
A week. And you notice, as you look at the date of the missive, that today is the last day to go to the Koldak Land Commission.
So even if we left today, we wouldn't make it there in time to dispute it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Is there a contract of any sort? Is there like a more official writing on the back, or is it just that?
This is the Herald's message. So whatever I have posted in your chat is the entirety of the message, beyond the date of when this was made, which you now know is essentially today's the last day to go to the Koldak Land Commission and settle this dispute.
It's will. Prachi, go ahead.
This should be illegal. Who does this? I was raised by bureaucracy, and we don't just do this. This is rude.
I blink at Prachi. I'm pretty sure this is exactly how they do it.
It's
no, not
kind
in
of true.
Koldak.
It's kind of true. However, Koldak land commissions, if you're in Koldak, yeah, you have a calendar week, so you would have a week to deal with it. The fact that this is property, especially a vacation estate, it's not like they really account for that.
They didn't even say anything about my stipend. What am I going to live off of now?
I poke my head up above the crowd. I kind of try and stand up straight a little with my cane, and I go, you there, Herald. How will we be treated under? So I go on to the Herald, and I just kind of briefly explain, we are of the estates of Zamender. How will we be treated under the secondary trading? I butcher the name on purpose. Secondary trading consortium. What will be expected of us?
Well, there will be some improvements made to this village, and
Red light.
I
your
don't like
your
that.
your zamindar has not approached you yet to tell you of this. And you notice at
No.
this point there's another lone horse in the horizon coming towards all of you.
Oh no.
I immediately take out a piece of paper and I go, Prachi, and I go, Prachi, do you have a pen?
Of course I have a pen. What are like animals?
Well, give me a pen. And I start writing something, and it's a letter, and I hand it to Surma, and I say, could you deliver this as fast as you can to, what's the name of the main town?
Koldak?
To Koldak. I actually don't write that on the letter. I write, be ready. to Surma. I write, be ready.
She's already ready. But
like ready.
Shakes him.
Like horsemen by default make me all weird.
So as this lone horseman approaches, Surma, you recognize that it is the Koldak courier that's coming. And they look like they've run this horse ragged in trying to get here as soon as possible. And as they approach, they kind of like, this was a super important letter I had to give you, and drops the message and says, okay, well, I'll just kind of go rest over there, and points to like one of the benches that is just out there for anybody. And I'm gonna take a nap. That should be enough time for a message, right? If I need to go, otherwise I'll just go back. I was told I had to come here as soon as possible and come back as soon as possible. Okay, I'm just gonna go just die over there, and then just collapses and falls asleep on a bench.
So they've killed that young person. This
Wait.
is terrible.
Usually the horse does most of the work. Why is he so tired?
Anxiety is exhausting.
And Surma, you have a scroll with the seal of your zamindar on it.
What does it say, Surma?
Yeah, I will open it and read it. Though I have a feeling I know what it says.
Yeah, I sent you the message.
Oh no.
No.
So it says, to all my loyal people, a recent opportunity arrived at my doorstep that will greatly benefit us all. It will be an opportunity to enrich our family and all of you and brighten the futures of our children, which is why I have decided to hand over the reins of my estate to a foreign investor and caretaker, the Secondary Trading Consortium. They have promised that they will have a more hands-on approach to our betterment and will help move us all to a brighter age. Please give them the same courtesy and welcome you have given our family when they arrive. Your humble Zendar people.
And there's no mention of me on there?
Nope.
No.
I pat Prachi's shoulder.
I was about to say,
I'm
very
so sorry,
comfortingly.
Prachi. Yeah.
Babel puts her hand on Prachi's head, and she's like, it's okay.
I point my cane at the passed out courier, and I mage hand his head up, and I just walk over and give him a little water, and just make sure he's not dead. Is he dead?
No, he's just very exhausted and basically is sleeping.
Okay.
I can't believe they've killed this young person too.
Babel kind of leans in towards Tennille, and she's like, the betterment of our future is all well and good, and as long as it doesn't interfere with the regular workings of the village or ruins the things that we already have, then I have no problem with this. However, if it does not bode well for us and our future and the people, they cannot stop all of us.
I laugh as if what she said was funny, but my face is not funny. And I go, funny thing about trading companies and people owning you. It's never a great thing when things change. I think we should be prepared.
I like being owned. It means people give me money.
And I raise my finger at the herald. Tell me, in this trade consortium, what rights do we have as people? If something isn't working, do we make a complaint?
People.
People. We are the people.
And the herald says, "Well, I am but a herald. I do not know exactly all the rules and laws, but my understanding is that as long as you do the work, you will be compensated fairly."
What is the word?
I don't know that word either. What is
Damn it, Prachi.
And looks at you, like sort of looks down at you, sort of sneeringly, and says, "Well, everyone has to pull their weight as we work towards making a community that will all do their part in what we are doing right now. There's many resources that can be better managed," as they sort of look around at the entire village and sort of like judging all of you very silently.
Babel very slowly turns away from the herald and back at Sunil and Surma and Prachi, and she has a very patient smile, but her eyes are wide and that mom, like, I'm about to kill this person kind of look. And then very slowly she turns back to the herald and says, "It seems that we have missed the deadline to go to the Kodak Land Commission and dispute this. Is there any ways that we can get an extension, since I'm assuming this letter was drafted the same day that you left, which is why we were not allotted the correct amount of time to go to and from the Kodak Land Commission?"
She says, "Well, you could you would have to go to Koldak to get that extension. My job was simply to deliver this missive."
You are a terrible messenger. Our Surma could run circles around you.
Yes.
So then...
Surma's running circles around.
Then question, Harold. You say we are to be compensated fairly, but are we to expect this as what you consider fair?
What do you mean by this? Me, GM.
Oh, the not allowing us the time to be able to...
And the herald says, "Well, it was not my place to decide how much time. This is all something that is, blame the Koldak Land Commission. I was simply the messenger. And it seems like whatever issues you have, it is with the Koldak Land Commission and your Zamindar."
Have you ever heard the phrase, shoot the messenger? Because I would like to.
And at this point, the
hand on Prachi's head.
We both of us just immediately.
The two riders that are flanking this herald are holding their staves. They're not actually doing anything, but they're now guarded and they're like alert.
Babel puts her other hand out as one is like on one of Prachi's shoulders. She puts her other hand out kind of towards the herald and the guards. Very sort of like defensively, like whoa, hold on. And she goes, "There'll be no violence. Thank you. You have done your job very well, and we appreciate it on behalf of the people and the people. We will go to the Kodak Land Commission, and we will dispute this in person. And if you have no more business here," and she kind of looks at everyone else for confirmation, "then you may take your leave."
And the elven rider sort of smiles and motions to the two riders to go, And as they are leaving, she just drops the cup to the ground, like just flings it and breaks it as they leave.
I mage hand and catch it real quick before it shatters. Oh, she does break it? She breaks
Oh,
it?
sorry. You know what? Give me a dexterity check to sort of be quick on the draw.
Ooh. Hey!
Yeah, you grab it.
I was actually going to thaumaturgy them as they got farther away. I was going to thaumaturgy them to come back and then just nicely take the teacup. But that works too. And I hand the teacup back. That's what I said. Trading companies, trading commissions, trading authorities. I've never met one that I've liked.
The bulk of the tea spills to the ground. Or, you know what? Actually, it's up to you whether you catch it from breaking or whether you catch it and do it so well that it doesn't even spill.
No. It spills.
Okay. So you managed
the damage is done.
You managed to rescue the cup.
Mage handed back over to Babel.
Babel holds it like it's like a priceless antique. Just kind of looks at it in her hands. She's very contemplative about it. And then she very quietly druid crafts a couple of flowers to come out of the cup. She sets it down on her little table on the floor, and she looks at everyone else. So, who would like to come to Koldak?
I would like to go to Koldak.
Simon's already like halfway to her horse with like a sword, hand on her sword and everything, just like marching to her horse.
It's just letting out the lungs. I had a personal rule about not going anywhere where there's two things. One, standing armies, and two, standing bureaucracies. And I kind of wince my face at that last one.
Jamil, no. You will like Koldak. They have the best food and the best wine of anywhere in the world. I promise.
If the people there are like you, Prachi, then I'm sure we will like it very much.
Oh, Babel. Just boop her little nose.
So I run off for a hot second as best I can, and I come back with my horse, which you barely see me ride. And it's an older horse, but it's not from around these here parts. It's smaller and a little bit stockier. It's not a donkey or anything, but it's definitely much smaller than some of the horses around these. And I'm a pretty tall person, so it kind of looks weird when I get on it. But as soon as I'm on it, I'm just graceful as F. And it's like I was made to ride a horse. And I'm just like, all right, to whatever that damn city's called.
I just had the briefest image of, instead of a horse, Babel has like a fucking giraffe or some shit.
Giraffes?
Just like super out of place, like not like vaguely horse-like, but she probably has a horse that she's like decorated with flowers and like they have like matching flower crowns.
Aww.
Yeah, she'll go and get her horse as well, wherever it may be. It's probably tied to one of the lower branches of the peepal tree, just kind of hanging out and grazing. Not even tied, but runs away.
They do have these really beautiful, I don't know, they might be extinct in the real world, a cashmere stag. Oh, wait, that's cashmere, that's over the west.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It would be to north.
Yeah.
So Kieran and Babita will stay behind and sort of be the people in charge, the people. As the four of you go. If there's any other supporting character who you would like to accompany, you may name them, but you are literally naming them because so with the four of you, do you take off immediately or do you prepare for the day, like get some rations, get some things, and maybe go the following day? Or
Babel would like to prepare by first napping for around 3 hours, and then when she wakes up, she will sit down with Sunil and will draft out lesson plans for the children to study while they are away. Give some of it to Babita. Kieran is probably also asleep, so she gives it to Babita. And this is the first time I imagine that Babel's even left the village since she was like born. And so she kind of like sits Babita down for a very like motherly talk, and she's like, "You're in charge." That's not Babel's voice. "You are in charge. I am very proud of you. I know that you will do the best." Gives her a little like kiss on the forehead. Like, this is up to you now. This is how you are going to show that you are going to be an excellent caretaker in the future after I am gone. And then she'll get some food together and tell all of her bees goodbye and that she'll be back soon. And she makes some tea to put on standby. She gathers a bunch of herbs, like she's like a medicine cat from the Warrior Cat series.
Noble Babel, are you sure that you want to leave the town? It is a wide world full of bullshit.
It is a wide world, and I am here to explore it. I have spent over 100 years in this village. I think that it is about time that I see something outside of the people.
I just lean over to Surma though, and I'm like, watch Babel when we get to the city.
She discovers gambling and you never see her again. She discovers the Las Vegas Strip and she vanishes.
That's it.
Just gotta do those slots.
Yeah.
Prachi's like, I know where she is. They are.
Okay, is there any other preparation that any of you would like to do?
I have my lessons and I have them the notes so copiously and wonderfully done that anyone could walk in, open it up, and just kind of easily teach. I leave it on my desk, and right before I go, I pick out 4 random children and I bless them. And I keep concentration as long as I'm writing.
And the 4 children that are there, there's a couple of other children who are almost fighting for the privilege to be blessed. As they know what you're doing.
Gather around, and I just chuck blank die at the ground. Good job.
I like the idea that Sunil's lesson plans are intricately laid out, like Matthew Mercer's campaign notes, more or less. Just every possible thing that could happen, notes, subnotes, and then you look over at the paper that Babel has written, and it just is like nature is cool in big letters.
Yeah.
That's what the kids learn. It's a really bad drawing of the people tree, and that's it.
And Kieran just gives you like a raised eyebrow, and Babita just sort of takes it as like the like respectfully, like without saying a word, just sort of takes it and sort of like, does a motion of in sign language, your will be done.
I will say, noble Babylon, let Surma take the. Oh, and actually, there is something I do. I come out of the schoolhouse after prepping all my plans, and for the first time, you guys have never seen me do this. I am wearing this very old but still solidly made breastplate, and it almost looks like it's kind of weighing me over a little bit. And I also am carrying a reinforced wooden shield. So it's mostly wood, but it's got a few pieces of metal kind of all holding it together. And on it is this very old emblem. It seems to be a horse of some sort with a devil or something sitting on top of it, or some sort of scary creature sitting on the horse. But it's really aged and the paint's starting to come off. And I'm just like, all right, ready to go. And then with my breastplate and shield, I use my cane to come over to my horse.
What about Surma? Do you do any preparation?
Surma was just going to leave, but when it looks like everybody else is going to come, she insists that they gather proper supplies for everybody, especially since Babel and Samil are coming with, to make sure that everybody can be properly taken care of on the road. But other than that, no. She just makes sure that we have proper supplies.
And what about Prachi?
So Prachi's lessons plans just say, make them dance about the tree. I don't care. And he actually surprisingly doesn't pack up a lot of things. You would think he would have like several suitcases of clothes and all that. But he has made peace with the fact that he has been gone from Koldak for quite some time. And so the fashions have changed, and he's just going to have to improvise when he gets there. However, he does bring his horse, which is a very handsome black horse with gold tack. And he also brings he brings a lot of stuff for writing. It looks like he's ready to do a letter writing campaign. He brings his dulcimer, which is his preferred instrument, and he brings a small figure of a black dog with him.
I like the idea that Prachi is it's like, I'm ready to bureaucracy.
Yes, this is what he's been training for his whole life.
Dabble takes the lack of suitcases as a sign that Prachi has accepted that he is a member of Peepaw Village and has no intentions of staying in Koldak, and she looks very proud as he comes out with his one duffel bag full of items.
It is a very nice leather satchel. It's not a duffel bag, please.
Prachi, can I grab one thing from your house?
Oh,
yeah.
Of course.
The green bottle or the blue bottle?
I would say in this case, why not both?
Because I only have one hand because I'm carrying a shield.
Well, I also have one hand, and we can swap.
I knew you were good at math, Prachi. And I go and get both bottles, and I tie one to my waist and hand the other one to Prachi. Which one? You want green one, blue one? Good.
I'll start green. Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Green one, blue. All right.
Okay.
And I've got a little helmet that's like...
Okay, so as you make your way through and spend about a week's travel, you could reduce it by a couple of days by pushing yourself, but it may have there may be a not so great thing happening to your horses. So what pace are you setting to reach Koldak?
Well, we have some older people in our party, so I imagine it's going to be a little chill. We are not going to be racing there as much as Surma and Prachi would really like to be.
Babel cares for her horse more than herself, so if it starts to show any sign of being tired, she insists on taking a nap.
Okay, so it actually takes more like a week and a half to get there.
I think you're all way too slow anyway. Like, you're just... My horse is just made for long distance travel like nobody's business.
So as you approach Koldak, Prachi, it's definitely... There's been quite a few changes in the decade or so that you have gone. There seems to be more bigger buildings. There seems to be more magical... it's the equivalent of, more electrical advancement, but magic. And you see that there is stock of, as you're sort of entering the town and just overhearing people on the road talking, on the streets talking, something about, new trade deal, steam magic, and, various things.
Prachi gives everybody a little tour. He's like the college kid returning home, during Thanksgiving break with his roommates. And this is where the first time I ever got drunk is where I got drunk. And this is my favorite bookstore. And this is my favorite quill shop. And this is my favorite sari shop. And this is my favorite this and that. And yeah, it's probably very boring.
Rashi, have you been drunk at all of these places?
I mean, I'm not going to say yes for sure, but yes.
Are there any trees?
There are well manicured trees. And there is like sort of a natural bark, but everything about it screams manicured, and everything has its place.
As every time they go by one of these trees, one of these perfectly sculpted,
perfectly placed.
Yeah. Babel just does a little bit of druidcraft just to make it like a tiny bit more wild. Just like not really noticeable unless you kind of like look at it a couple of times, but like it's not like a perfect sort of shape anymore. A couple of roots go out of the ground a little bit like a stray. One branch is a little bit longer than the rest of them, just a little more natural.
Okay. Give me a nature check.
Yeah.
I put my hand on her and I guidance her, so
okay.
1d4.
Extra bonus 1d4?
Yeah.
I believe so, yes.
All right. And that's a nature check that I'm doing?
Yes.
Oh man, alrighty. Oh.
Oh yeah, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, so you managed to easily sort of look at your surroundings, and this was mainly to see whether you could do it without arousing anybody's ire. And for the most part, even in the places where there's like estates that are like mansions, like townhouse mansions sort of a thing, where you add a little touch of the wild, you actually see little kids. Some of them might be like they're not street urchins. They actually are living in those houses or whatever. Just sort of give this big grin of like, ooh, magic.
So two things. One, simply Emily's comment. Guerrilla gardening is fantastic.
Yes, that is amazing.
Fantastic.
Guerrilla gardening.
Sarma, is anyone following us? I figure Surma is Surma a rogue? Yeah.
Yeah.
I just figure Surma's been here before. Prachi's been here. Prachi's busy. Prachi's like over here. Surma, are we being followed or anything?
Do you want a perception check?
Yeah, perception check would be just fine.
Followed, looked at weird.
10.
Place.
It's hard to tell. You're in the middle of a city. Everyone's staring at everyone.
Not as far as I can tell.
All right. Prachi, where are we going? Where do we need to go? Do we need to go to the Capitol building, or is there more like a bureaucracy building?
The Kodak Land Commission is what was on the missive.
Prachi, you would
Yes.
know where all the government buildings are. Koldak is a city of basically smaller districts, so there's definitely sort of an administrative district where all the important things are. You also, being a distant cousin and having lived here, you also know where the Zamindar's house is, should you want to go there at some point.
That is where I would like to go. In fact, I would suggest we head there first and invite ourselves in to stay as Zamindar's guests.
You're the only cousin I like, Prachi.
You know, but he has inconvenienced us, and we were his people, and so we belong at his house in his finest guest rooms.
So you know that Zamindar has basically a nice palatial town estate in sort of the more elite, more where all the nobles and council people would be. And as you head there, you know, the first thing you see is like the gate, the land is massive, and you know that there's basically a gate and a watch guard at the gate. And as you approach, the watch guard looks at you and says, "Yes, can I do something for you?"
Hello. You probably don't remember me. I'm a personal
No, I
friend
don't.
of the. I'm a personal friend of the Zaminders, and we come from his town people. And we are in town for a little bit of bureaucracy. So we need a place to stay, and the Zaminder kindly invited us here.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, are you doing something?
I thought that was going to be a persuasion check.
Sorry, I can't actually see what.
Sorry.
What the.
I put my hand on Prachi as he's talking, and I guidance in case there was a persuasion check.
Give me a deception check so that because this is a magical town, to see so that the guard doesn't see you basically trying to do magic.
Oh no.
Oh, sorry, not me.
Not. Oh, I wasn't prepared for this. Actually, I'm now in this. Do I know what are their feelings on magic? They don't like it, or?
It's a very magical city. Magic is
Okay.
everywhere and everything. It's just that you're basically doing some sort of magic, rather than talking. It's up to you whether you don't care being like, if you're like, I'm gonna do it regardless, or whether it's like, no, I have enough sense to try to do it.
I'm going to not show my hand, but with a flick of my finger, I substitute a 19 as my roll because I have a 0 and I don't want to be caught with magic. So I divination portent a 19, a natural 19.
Okay, so yeah, you managed to sort of like there and cast your spell. And and the guard says, "Well, wait here. I will check." And sort of calls out for someone else, and the other person stands there and stares at you. It's like this really young lass who is probably an apprentice in training to be a watch guard, just sort of standing there and staring at all of you and says, "Hi."
Hello.
Greetings.
Normally, I at least get invited into the foyer. You wouldn't be able to make that happen, would you?
I don't know. I'm just doing whatever he told me to do, which was to stand here and make sure you didn't try to get in.
We are honored cousins, especially
Yes.
Prachi.
Especially Prachi.
Mostly Prachi.
You're doing an excellent job, my child.
Well, the thing is, there's been lots of cousins, so we need to make sure you're actually cousins. So, sorry. I mean, if you're cousins, then it's fine. If you're not cousins, well, I'm sorry.
Well, my aunties and my uncles have been very prolific, so that's very understandable.
And as... sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, Babel will druidcraft a little flower out of their sleeve and hands it to the little apprentice.
And they smile and say, "Sorry, I can't accept any gifts because that would be bribing. And I don't know, I've been told that apparently people put things like sleeping stuff in flowers, so it looks really pretty, but I can't accept it. I'm sorry."
And I just get real close and lean down and I go, "You're very smart."
And after awkward conversation for another 10-15 minutes, the older guard comes and says, "I'm sorry, but the master is not home at the moment."
You took all that time to figure out if the master was not home. You're a guard. Wouldn't you have known that in the first place?
That's very important information. He's right.
And
You're a terrible guard.
Looks at the
happened
entire
in this
estate and sort of vaguely gestures and says, "I don't know when they leave."
All right, well, here's the thing. I need you to tell him that Prachi Ashtazaharam has been here. I know he's not allowed to be here, but that's between you and me. But I need a place to stay, and I've come and brought the village elders from the town of people who are very, very interested in speaking with him. So if he needs us, we will be at the Koldak Land Commission. And we expect to speak to him very shortly.
Also, can I insight check him to see if he's telling the truth?
Definitely.
No.
Can Babel do an insight check?
Sure. If anybody here who wants to do an insight check may do an insight check.
Cool.
Yeah.
So Prachi, as you sort of see, like, you remember anytime anybody spends this long and gets back to you like this, it usually means that you were told to sort of like, oh, just tell them they're not home, come tomorrow, sort of.
Yes.
It's and you see in the far distance their carriage and palanquin is in residence, which means they're home.
Let me tell you something, sir. I just happened to look over there and I saw the Zeminder's carriage and palanquin. Now, is he wandering around on foot? Because as his personal guard, I feel like you should be with him. You know, there's a lot of people in this city who would love to see people killed. I mean, people, not people.
People.
Is that a threat?
No. You know, this is my cousin. I am worried for his safety. And if he's employing very, very bad guards who are doing a bad job, I would have to be very concerned, and I would probably have to contact the authorities.
There's no authorities here. It's usually just whatever personal guards. Like, there's no law enforcement as a whole.
Okay.
For goodness sake, the other guard didn't even check us for poisons.
You guys are not very good at your jobs.
And the guard just sort of looks at you, looks at the little girl, at the young girl, and the young girl's like, I didn't take anything. I promise, I didn't. And he just gives this look of like, just go away for now. And she just, she slinks away, and he says, look, all I know is that the master is not home, and gives you a very meaningful look, as in, this is the very polite society way of saying bugger off.
When you see Zeminder again, please tell him that Prachi will be at his door day and fucking night to get into this fucking place.
And Prachi, oh, go ahead.
I would suggest you go tell him right now. And can I roll intimidation?
Sure.
Go Prachi.
Yeah.
And he stares you down and says, look, very quietly says, look, I don't know what is going on. I am simply following my master's orders.
I am tired of hearing people telling me that they are following their master's orders. I would like to speak to your master right now.
Has anyone said that today?
And
the messenger said it earlier.
Oh yeah, that was last week.
Guard says,
a week and a half
Prachi's
ago.
really held on to that grudge.
Oh yeah.
and
Prachi loves a grudge.
And the guard sort of crumples a little and says, look, I'm only doing my job. I really don't want, this is very good pay. I do not want to lose this. I have children to feed. I have a family to take care of.
I literally do not give a shit about your family.
Prachi.
I literally care about your family a lot. But what I need you to do is tell Zeminder I will be back at 5 p.m. tonight, and I will knock on this door, and I will play my dulcimer, and I will make his life hell until he speaks to me.
And I whispered to Prachi real quick, hey Prachi, is this the same Zeminder that drank that thing and he told me the story, the embarrassing one with the toilet?
It is.
Yes.
You know, and I am back in town, so I will have to visit all my old haunts and see all my old friends. And I have some stories about Zeminder I would like to tell. So if I come back here at 5 and I'm not permitted to see him, think I'm gonna go spend the night at the local taverns and talk to my good old buddies. And I name some of the other Zemindars that kind of travel in the same circles as him that would not like to know that story.
And he says, well,
just a thought.
I will pass the message on whenever the master's home, sir.
Thank you.
That's all Prachi wanted was the sir.
I just need a little bit of respect. I'm having a hard week and a half.
And we'll just wait for all of you to leave before you can see their shoulders relax just a little.
Bab will be the first one to kind of turn around, and it's less that he's like, okay, we're done here, as he gets distracted by something. He starts to wander away, and everyone's like, oh, I guess we're leaving. And
come along, Babel.
Yeah, they will make their way towards the Black Land Commission, wherever Prachi points the group in the direction to.
As we're leaving, I just quietly snap my finger, and a thaumaturgy just goes bah! From behind the guard as he's relaxing. Gotta show respect, Prachi. That's the main thing.
Gotta show respect. And Prachi's just like shaking from all the adrenaline of having to talk to somebody like that, both excitement and terror.
I hand Prachi the blue bottle.
Okay, so as you make your way to the Koldak Land Commission, and you show them the paperwork and everything, the person that is at the desk says, okay, well, to extend the deadline, you need to go to the Koldak disputes office, which is like 2 or 3 blocks away.
Is there any paperwork I need to have before I go there? Do not fuck around with me, young person.
I will not tolerate this language. That is considered threatening.
Oh, I forgot how much I hated Koldak. Prachi just storms out.
And as you
Just give me the paperwork, and I step forward, and I go, and I have a manila envelope that has just apparated into my hand, and I'm like, I have several subsections ready for all of the contracts and the forms, and give me.
And as
got our birth certificates in it.
Yes.
Give me a survival or a history check to find the disputes office.
Me or Prachi? Or is Prachi just run off?
I'm around. I'm just.
Prachi can make it with advantage. Everybody else just rolls normally.
Okie dokie.
I'm sorry. What was the roll?
18.
Yeah. It is a survival or history.
Heaven.
22.
Okay,
Ooh.
so you managed to
Nat 20.
You managed to make your way to the disputes office, but there's a big sign saying "Gone for lunch. Be back in 2 hours."
I hate Koldak.
Do you wait?
Yes.
We wait right outside the door.
Right outside the door.
Yes.
In about 2.5 hours, a person shows up and says, yes, what can I do for you?
Yes, we were sent from the Koldak Land Commission to come here so that we may extend the deadline. We are the people. We have recently been under the eminent domain of the Secondary Trading Consortium. Unfortunately, our deadline for the dispute was not calculated with travel time in mind. So we are here to extend the deadline so that we may get free reign of our village back. Thank you.
I just stare at Babel. Damn.
Looks at everything and says, well, you're actually missing Form 3A and Form HB6, and you need to get that from the Koldak Land Commission office.
Prachi just screams and walks outside.
No. Everybody stay here. I shuffle off as fast as I can, and I have memorized those forms, and I open my manila, and I just go, and there's a big blank space where those forms should be, and I go, bastard. And I shuffle off to the. Is there a line in the land authority?
It's actually closed for the day.
Getting flashbacks. You can't do this to me, Barrett.
Sorry. Okay.
I come back.
As we're getting close to the break, I will say that, if we want to play a little more Bureaucracy 101, we could do that. But the gist of all of this is that you sort of waste several days going around in sort of this catch-22 situation. And eventually you get the sense that two things are happening. One, you are indeed too late, and bureaucracy is nothing if not lawful. And two, you get the sense that that there is some other things brewing that you do not have access to in terms of contacts or resources. But it seems to be that anyone higher up in Koldak does not want to actually get into disputing this, as there are other diplomatic trades going on that they do not want to put in peril. So you get the sense you're kind of on your own at the moment.
And I very slowly turn to Serm after these days and go, piracy it is.
Finally! Finally! Why did we even come here?
Okay, so with this, this is a good time to take a break, and we will have a giveaway for several things. Let me pull that up because we have two giveaways up for grabs. We have a College of Caterwauling and Cat Burglar D&D PDF by Jessica Markham, as well as a $20 Modifius gift certificate for the store. And I will start this giveaway now. And let me get the timer. Actually, no, that's good. To enter this giveaway, you need to type !people, which is PEEPAL. And we will have an extra player joining us after the break, so stay tuned for that. And we will now stretch your legs, do a couple of things, and BRB.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Immigration has become the defining challenge of our generation. Communities are under attack because our U.S. policies are pushing people into the shadows. How we respond to this challenge will determine how we are remembered and who we are. That is why Raíces exists.
Raíces is a nonprofit organization that offers legal services to the immigrant community.
The vast majority of our clients have zero resources, and we try to help them pro bono.
We work with people who no one else will work with. We work with people who are in detention, women, children. We work with people who've been detained at the border.
We work with families who are intact. We work with families who've been separated. We work with people whose families have rejected them because they might be transgender. We work with people who come from war zones whose families have all been killed. We try and take every case, and when we do, we see it through until the end.
I look at our clients and I see my own family. I am the product of an immigrant family's journey.
Many of us that work for this organization are immigrants ourselves.
I'm a former refugee from Iraq. I came in 2010. My clients have the same story as mine.
My grandpa was an immigrant from Cuba, and really when I look at my clients, I think of him and I think of the rest of my family.
As someone who came to this country undocumented, I feel privileged and honored that I'm able to do this.
We believe that the Constitution extends to all people in the United States, including immigrants.
We believe that everyone has a right to due process.
We believe that no person is illegal.
We believe that refugees are supposed to be in the United States.
I mean, we believe that families should remain intact, and there's no reason to separate them at the border as punishment.
We're committed to people. We're not committed to parties. We're committed to the people.
We believe that we're all human beings and we deserve to be treated well.
Raíces was founded in 1986 and born from the sanctuary movement, which itself was a response to immigration policies in the early 80s that really made it impossible for Central American refugees to seek protection here in the United States.
It was a two-person office to begin with. We didn't have air conditioning or heat. We were distributing food, clothing, had medical care. We weren't doing visa work until probably around 2000.
When I started at Raíces almost 20 years ago, we were only 3 people, okay? 1 attorney, another legal assistant, and myself.
We've been here for a long time, and yes, we've met each crisis as it's come.
We just need to keep growing and growing because there is a lot of people out there that needs our help.
We have a family detention program. We prepare people for their credible fear interviews.
We're in the detention centers every day, talking to our clients, hearing their stories.
We have a children's program. We provide legal presentations for the children's rights.
Children need representation while they're still in detention. Otherwise, they would go to court alone.
We have community immigration services, which can range from renewing an application for DACA to applying for citizenship to applying for a visa on behalf of a crime victim.
We have a refugee resettlement program.
We help them to adjust into this country. We help them with housing and food and medical.
But also when they move to other cities in this country and need continuing services.
It's really about creating those partnerships with the community to make sure that our new community members feel welcome and safe and protected.
Last year I was almost deported, and Raíces came in, and without knowing anything about me, they helped me, and I don't think I would be there if Raíces hadn't helped.
I hope that one day our clients can be able to walk out on the street without a fear in their hearts. I want to be able to have a country where we can welcome asylum-seeking families in a system that isn't designed for them to fail.
They're a grassroots kind of organization that helps the community at the most basic level. They went out of their way to help me, and because of them, I'm able to keep going to school. I'm able to keep the life that my dad brought me here to build.
When you work at Raíces, you actually get to witness our nation being born anew. Every time we work with a client, you're literally watching the beginning moments of one of those stories that we hear about. We talk about our forefathers. We actually work with people who will be the mothers and fathers of the future generation of Americans.
The most patriotic people that I've ever met are new immigrants. The most ambitious people, the most qualified people. These are the best people that their countries are sending. Why would you want to close the door on that?
We've been doing this work for more than 30 years. We were here before. We're here now, and we're not going anywhere.
Hello! We are back, and as you can see, we have another person joining us. Unfortunately, there was some time mismatching, being that we're all coming from different regions and time zones, and we are glad to have Leona join us. We will get into her character momentarily. However, let us remind ourselves why we are all here. We are currently 16 hours away from our effort to raise $5,000, and we are currently at $2,800, which is amazing. But please, if you can, donate and click on the link. Yes, what are we donating for? I kind of am burying the lead a little bit. This entire charity stream, 50 hours that we're doing, is to benefit Raíces, Texas, who is at the forefront of immigration, and I can't really say anything better than the video that I had just played recently. But current events that are happening and the government essentially being fascist at the moment. Raíces, I'm not going to mince words. Raíces is there to make sure that justice is given to asylum seekers and immigrants that are currently being detained at the border. And now for a little bit of fun stuff. We have 2 giveaways that we ran our giveaways during the break. What's up for grab? College of Caterwauling and Cat Burglar D&D PDF by Jessica Markham. And the person who won that is Wild Engineer. Congrats. And our second prize is a $20 Modifius gift certificate for their store. And the winner for that is not Welcome Party RPG. It is Crystallize Me. Congrats.
Oh my god.
That was a mod messing up when Welcome to the Party RPG entered. That was
yes. There will be just say hello in the chat so that we know that you're active, and the mods or I will get to you regarding how to get your prizes. And with that being said, let us quickly introduce Leona. Please tell me who you are, where we can find you, and what character you are playing.
It's Leona Maple. You can find me on Twitter at the Leona Maple, and I am playing Babita, a paladin, a very quiet paladin, quiet and loves people.
Okay. So, where we last were in our before we had a break, some of the council elders who received this missive from this new consortium, the Secondary Trade Consortium, that their beloved village is now under the jurisdiction of said a trading consortium, and that if they wanted to dispute such a claim, they had to go to the nearest capital city, which is also the town of the residence of their landowner, who apparently maybe gambled. Who knows? They didn't quite really find out what happened and how this transfer happened, but after going through some red tape and bureaucracy of the big city, they have come to a conclusion that Koldak will not be helping them in getting their city back. As you travel home, you see about almost. Let me pull up my notes. As you are about maybe several hours away from your town, north of your town, you notice that there's some commotion far enough away, and there seems to be a camp being set up of some sort of like a work camp near the foothills. As you make your way back to town, you see Kiran and Babita awaiting your arrival.
Babu will dismount from his horse and kind of walk over and greet Babita and give her a little kiss on the forehead. How did everything go? They just sign back and forth for a minute.
Yeah, I will slightly take control of your character for a moment, because there is some information that Babita will say in sign language, which you're free to mime along with me. So Babita mentions that there's been some activity a few hours north of the village, which seems to track with what you were seeing, and that it seems there have been a couple of foreign people dressed in similar clothes to the Secondary Herald that had come 3 weeks ago and was surveying the town every couple of days, seeing what resources there were, looking over all what was going on in the village, and basically they haven't really come and asked anything of the village yet. It seems to be they're looking at what resources are available. It's just more of a survey, but the biggest activity is that work camp that is happening near the foothills.
So I've actually tied my horse to Prachi's as we're traveling, and I have a stack of papers about this big that I've been slowly reading through of contracts and paperwork, and I feel like I'm just getting. Well, now they're saying here that resources in work camps, and then we pull up and I'm like, oh, yeah. Right here, subsection 7 on paragraph 44. It says they can put us in work camps. I don't know if that's true, actually. Sorry.
It actually does say that. They can enlist anybody to help as all the assets and resources include also the people living on it.
Prachi is just absolutely devastated after the past few days. And he just looks back at Sunil and he says this and goes, I don't like working. I don't like camping. This is all bad.
Indeed. Well.
Sounds like we are back. What can we do?
Sarma, what do you think? Me and Sarma.
I mean, we could always fight back.
Are there armed forces here that we see as we roll up? Maybe a few guards?
You would have to get closer to the work camp. When I was basically describing it, it was like you wanted to make sure you got to your town soon so you didn't investigate at the time, because they're not quite on the road. They're a little ways off the road, closer to the foothills, almost like it's some sort of mining operation of some kind.
Surma, you want to go see what that looks like?
Yes, I can investigate this work camp, and that should be fine.
All right.
Okay, before we get into all the things you would like to do, we are now moving to a more long-term phase of this one shot, where any activities you do are not necessarily days and minutes or seconds, minutes, or hours. It is more a long-term, you have a task, and depending on what skill check or interesting application of whatever class features or things you have, and I will say that anytime we have a new task for your divination wizard.
I need to roll new ones.
Yeah, you get to roll 2 new ones. However, it's one of those, once you use one of them, then it will be a proper refresh. Or you can hang on to them for, like, you can change them every task, because each task is not like within the same day. And you don't need to tell me what they are, just roll them however you want and just hang on to them.
Yeah, I just rolled them in roll 20.
Okay. Good. So then, the first, the way I'm going to do this is a little kind of, it's not quite D&D 5e, but it's something I've been exploring, is that you have 2 resources. You have water and you have food. They are currently able to sustain 100 people of the village, which is the village itself. As time goes and new tasks and new threats happen, resources will be depleted depending on what you do. Resistance can delay the depletion of the resources, but they will increase the threat level, which is currently at 0.
Ooh.
So when the threat level rises to a certain point, certain things will happen, which is probably going to be the secondary trading consortium retaliating in a very bad way. But if your food and water Nerdy, if you can just mute yourself when you're not active, that will help because I can hear every noise in the background.
Yeah.
Please and thank you. And if your water and food go down to a certain point where you're unable to sustain the village, then there will be an uprising. So these will become more clear as we go, but for now, the first task, the first event that happens as you are all taking in what's happening is that with your initial scouting, just very bare bones scouting, you see that there's a work camp that is sort of a mining camp that has very clear signage that it's the Secondary Trading Consortium, and it seems like it's at least double your village in how many people are working there. So far, none of the villagers have been enlisted to do this work camp. It is completely made of secondary workers. And they are about an hour north of this village. It seems to be the surveyors that have come have now started asking all of you to, since you are part of this collective, that they will ask for resources in terms of whatever crops you have to share. Currently, you're at a bit of a surplus, so whatever surplus that is there will go, and you'll still be able to feed everybody. And even though it is an ask, they're not asking.
Can we gather? They're not watching over us at all times. Like, there's not a guard. We're not under suspicion of anything just yet, right?
No, currently it seems to be more of a we will trade you for food and water. And sort of fresh water from the river. You notice, however, that the river as a whole, even though the monsoon season is going on and there's been rains, the river has started to not be as plentiful. There's no connection with the work camp of any sort because it's far away from the water, but there just seems to be a sense of like the water is dwindling just a little bit. Not enough to be a concern yet in terms of water and food, but you've noticed that the bank that usually stays dry is starting to get wet, and the river that is wet is starting to dry up. It's almost like it's shifting its course. And instead of running through the village as a barrier between the village and the forest, it's actually starting to go into the forest, which is starting to create some issues. Again, nothing too concerning, but this natural phenomena is starting to happen. And at this point, you can have an elder council meeting to discuss these events happening, and from that, maybe come up with a couple of ideas of how to handle this, and then resulting on that, we will resolve what happens and how that affects your water, food, and threat.
Babel has the create water spell. Create or destroy, but I don't feel like destroying water right now. So if it seems that the river is starting to get worryingly low, then they will start sort of dispensing water with like their own magic and sort of kind of using that mostly for themselves, so that she in the grove is not taking up water from the river that could go to other people. And then if it seems that there are others in the village who are having trouble, are starting to have trouble sustaining themselves with just the river water, then she will start using her magic to produce water for them as well. Let me see how many gallons that actually makes. Okay, she can make up to 10 gallons of clean water with one action of that.
Okay, so that could probably, depending on how many spell slots you choose to expend in doing that, that can certainly at least have drinking water for a good chunk of, like, maybe half of the village. If you're going to use it as potable water to do other activities, then it's probably more like, say, maybe 10 villagers.
Let me check her spell slots real quick to see like how many times a day she can.
While you're doing that, what does everyone else want to say or contribute to the issues that are happening?
So-
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I just realized. Babita, you had asked us what are they trading with us for. It is mostly money. They just basically are like, here, we compensate you. They're trading with cash, and in a way they're trading it for luxury goods. They're not really, like, they're great. You now have fancy clothes. You now have some really cool things, but you're not getting anything that's particularly usable, specifically like the water and food. There are other bartering goods that you can then trade with other places if you want, and you can certainly try to set that up as well.
I would want to have a meeting with not necessarily the council, but with some of the other adults, maybe when they bring their kids to school in the morning. And I tell a few of them that we need to be prepared for things. I don't go at length, but I actually start, at the very least, I start teaching the children about more geometry in a way where I use the actual village, and I'm covertly actually teaching them how to barricade and fortify things and think about things in a siege setting, just in case. I start saying, well, let's say there's a deer on the other side of this wall. What angle would you have to fire? It's not necessarily the best, but also I ask a few of the adults to stay so that they start understanding. It's kind of like a thing. Don't know, don't like trading companies, not a fan. Not a fan.
Prachi also begins to teach the students a lot of songs he knows about revolutions, about heroic folk heroes who take down the big man. Prachi is a big believer in freedom, and so a lot of songs about that have been in his repertoire, and he also plays them for the adults in town, just to start kind of spurring their minds towards that angle. But in terms of long-term goals, I think he would like to use his contacts maybe in the city to sell these luxury goods that we're getting, or figure out how to trade them for other supplies that we might need for what is happening.
Okay. And yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Did you have
Oh
something?
no, just like perhaps things like weapons or food, if it happens that they, pull a Irish potato famine on us and take away all of our potable food, and let us starve, that sort of thing.
Speaking of which, there is historical out of game fact. There were several similar famines in Bengal in the 1800s.
I believe it, and
some of the biggest.
The potato blight in Ireland was not a famine. It was just that was the only food they were letting the Irish eat at the time, they being the British. But another historical fact for you.
Colonization.
Exactly.
Okay, so back in game, Surma, is there anything you would like to do?
I start spending a lot of my time.
Oh no.
Okay, Zoom. Thanks for that.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna change the cameras at the moment. Because there is some zooming zoom issues where it just has multiple Leonas. So that will get fixed momentarily.
Oh my god, there's 2 Leonas.
I'm so sorry, y'all.
Okay, there.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
I spend a lot of my time investigating and looking into the consortium and watching them from afar and trying to figure out what they're up to.
Okay. So I think I have a couple of ideas of how to resolve all of these things that are happening, but okay. So let's start with Surma. It seems like you want to basically scout.
Yes.
Okay. Tell me what skill or class feature, or how do you want to do that?
I'm looking at.
You could stealth is a very
Yeah. I'm gonna just stealthily watch, trying to make sure that I'm not so close that they would notice me. Never watching from the same spot.
Okay. Give me a stealth roll then.
11.
Okay. So you do not get caught after the first few times of them seeing you skulk around. You kind of have to watch things from afar, and the most you're able to ascertain for this particular time frame is that there is about 200 workers, and the camp is 200 strong, and about 50 of them are well-trained mercenaries or guards. The others seem to be workers. You don't quite know what they're doing, except that all the workers go into the foothills, and there's lots of sounds of like pickaxes and other things. And the guards are you sort of guard shy, or do you not care if they see you?
You're muted.
You're muted.
I think I would be a little guard shy.
Okay. So you see the guards are actually at the camp. They are the same ones sometimes that accompany some of there's about, say, 5 or 6 people who look like they're in charge, like foremans or the traders that come between this work camp, and your town. And there's always at least 3 or 4 of them that come with the, I guess, the general or the person in charge who comes towards the village to do the bartering and trading. And these guards you get the sense, like, you don't know too much of what secondary military or militia is, but they seem very well trained. Maybe overly so for essentially what's like a mining camp. And that leaves you wondering. Now, Prachi. You are trying to set up some extra bartering of goods with essentially the fine silks and clothes and luxury goods that are there with your... How do you want to go about making these trades?
Probably with persuasion.
Okay.
Yeah, I think persuasion will do it.
Were those workers slaves, or were they paid? Like, how were they being treated?
Couldn't really get too close to the workers. Mainly
Gotcha.
patrols and sort of head counts is what was possible. That's something that can certainly be worked out.
Sorry.
Yeah, so Prachi, what are you hoping to trade for? And you have to be very specific. Is it more supplies to add to food and water, or is it weapons? Because you kind of said both. Or are you trying to get a mix of both?
Let's start with like food and supplies, food and water type things. I think we're probably okay on water, but food definitely.
You have a nice spreadsheet I have collected dutifully over the years of today's current what we have and.
Mm-hmm. And at Sunil's reckoning, or at his encouraging, I think I definitely use my fermenting equipment to can some of those vegetables and things, and kind of start storing those just in case we end up with a food situation on our hands.
I did the math, and if Babita, not Babita, I don't know why I keep calling her that. If Babel uses all of her daily spell slots to create water, she can create 80 gallons per day of drinkable water.
Nice.
Wow.
Okay, so that should actually take care of the village for a good while. We'll say that covers 80 people.
Okay.
We'll just do
Yeah, she wants to kind of do it on like the down low a little bit as well. If any like officials come by, she doesn't want to be like, oh, creating water, but like the village just always kind of seems to have enough water. And she's like, ah, yes, the people tree gives us what we need.
The people tree provides.
Please don't say that, because then we're going to have to stop them from cutting down the people tree.
Cut the people tree. No.
Okay, so give me a persuasion roll, Prachi, to see how successful you are in bartering.
Sort of.
Okay, so you managed to get some dried goods or shelf-stable things that would actually travel well. Like, it's closer to traveler's rations. It's like dried food stuff. It's fermented things that travel well. You're able to. It's not at a rate that you are happy with, but you are able to essentially get all of these goods for like maybe a third of the food that you could possibly get with it. So you have a couple of food reserves. I'm gonna say that if one person wants to make a roll, a 4d6 roll for me, please. One person. Whoever wants to go. All right. So you find over several weeks, as as the camp seems to be leaning in more and more for food and water, and the rivers are starting to dry up even more, given that the monsoon season is over. You find that with your current water supplies and food supplies, barring the surpluses that you've been getting, your village is now only capable of sustaining math. 86 people. They're starting to be a little bit of a concern. In addition,
All right.
in addition, because of the dwindling river, the paddy fields are starting to not have as great crops. And in addition, a lot of the secondary trading consortium has now suggested, in order to make use of the fact that the river is drying up, and does not seem at all surprised that that's happening, is suggesting to do other crops such as wheat, potatoes, and corn, and actually takes about a third of the land that was being used to grow your crops to grow those crops. And as those crops are growing, those are, except for like a small, here's a sampling, the bulk of it is now going to the secondary work camps.
So they just took the land.
They repurposed the land.
And this water level change seems to be within the norms of the season change.
It would have been, however, it seems to be more, it's almost on the extreme end of what is normal. As you all sort of sit and discuss the issues of the village, these are all the things that you have to work with.
Terma, mayhap one night you ride upstream and see if everything here is copacetic.
I was thinking the same.
And Babita too is.
I just saw.
Babita is currently is going through their vow of silence, so they are practicing their sign language as well as they do it. Not sign language in real life, because very few of us here as players actually know it, but sign language within the game.
I think it's time as well that we make friends with our new neighbors. And I use the word friends very, very graciously. And see if we can learn a little bit more about them and what their intentions are upstream.
I, meanwhile, I get some more adults, some of the more able-bodied, well-fed adults, and I begin to show them in a way, under the guise of irrigation channels, and I begin to show them this is where we need to repurpose. So the river's kind of drying up.
It is drying up and also shifting in an easterly fashion.
So I assume we have. Oh, sorry.
And this fresh water is now actually going into what is essentially a salt marsh, and it is disturbing the flora and fauna. Babita and Babel, as you sort of have a communion with nature and tree, just in general, you feel like what was initially a cacophony of life is slowly getting quieter.
Babel, having been kind of doing this guardian thing for 100 years or so now, is kind of in tune with nature to the point where her own health sort of reflects it. So I feel like everyone would also sort of have noticed that Babel has been getting, she's very kind of like gray and silver, sort of pearlescent most of the time, and she lately has been just sort of dulling, kind of getting very gray and losing color. And this communion with nature sort of confirms her suspicions and her worries. And yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to say you're not looking healthy. Are you okay, Babel?
I think that we should figure out what is going on with the river, and I would very much like to get our crops and our plants and our salt marsh back to where they were before all of this went down.
I take my very delicate notes to Prachi about how I assume that we used to have we have fishing docks and stuff that now are no longer even in the water.
No, they're not. They actually need to physically be moved, and I will say that you probably do it. But it just seems like the minute you set it down, it's like a week or two later you have to move it again.
And after the first time that
And
happens,
the fish are actually don't look like before. It was like teeming with fish. It's now sort of trickling. There's less fish, and the fish also don't look as good either.
I have plans, Prachi. I want you guys, instead of moving the docks, take that wood and begin reinforcing certain points here. We're going to have to dig new channels, and that wood isn't going to work anyways. And then I want to go with Babita and Surma when we go. Have we gone upstream yet to see if we can?
That is part of when we start this. When we start designating tasks, that's when we will resolve them.
Yes, and then I will get prepared to head upstream with Surma and Babita.
Okay. Babita, you want to participate in the investigate upriver for interference, and Babel, what are you? Are you taking part in the investigation, or are you? Actually, if you actually leave to investigate, the other question is, how far are you investigating? Because if you go basically more than a half a day away from the village, you will no longer be able to be a resource for fresh water for your village.
Yeah, she wouldn't. She doesn't want to spend more than a day away from the village, so she'll probably stay there. She trusts Babita to find out what she can. Prachi had suggested going to make friends with their new neighbors. So depending on how close that is, she might accompany Prachi, given that she's not exactly like the face or the voice of the village, but she does sort of consider herself to be a little bit of like I'm not sure what the word is, but as like the caretaker of the peepal tree, she sort of sees herself as like a very sort of high up figure, very diplomatic ambassador like. So if it's like, oh, we need to go and make friends with these new people in a very diplomatic way, then Babel would be like, it makes sense that I would go. So they would accompany Prachi with that if that happens around the same time as the river investigation.
It will. So it seems like we're sort of splitting into two tasks. One is to go and speak with the work camp, and the other is to investigate the river. So what I will do is deal with the meeting your new neighbors task first. So Prachi and Babel. As you approach the work camp, you see the same thing that Surma has been looking at and has been scouting, and you know that there's a certain place which is sort of like the entrance to the camp where if you're not trying to sneak in or do anything, that's the way you go, and you see that there is this big wooden work desk, where the essentially the administrators of the camp are sitting and going over what they're doing for the day as you approach. You hear them speaking in a language that you don't quite know. Prachi, you think this is probably Sikandari that they are speaking. And then they switch to Banga as you both approach. Very not great Banga, but it's enough to get by.
Hello, neighbors. Knock, knock.
Yes, what can we do for you? And you notice that as you approach, they quickly squirrel away a couple of, like, big, it looks like blueprints or some sort of a thing, and they quickly roll it up and put it away so you can't see it. And they say, what can we do for you? Is there any trouble at the village?
I think Prachi would have maybe brought some bottles as a welcome to the neighborhood kind of gift.
Babel has a large assortment of flowers as kind of a little welcome basket, maybe some baked goods, bunch of tea bags.
We were just stopping by to see how you were settling in. I assume you're our new secondary neighbors.
Neighbors would be an interesting term of word. I mean, we are but one village together. So technically, we're all part of the same place.
That's
And
interesting because. Sorry, go ahead.
and you see one of the other sort of administrators sifting through the basket that is there, and sort of you hear words like, "Oh, quaint," and other such things as they sort of look at the flowers, and you overhear uh, Prachi them saying something like Kermit over and over again. Kermit. And you don't quite know what it means, but maybe when you are able to speak to Sunil, who is very good at comprehending languages, maybe that might make some sense. But you get the sense that they're referring to the village or the people as Kermits.
Huh. I don't know.
As members of the same village, I'm sure that would not be a problem if we were to walk around this camp and just explore our new extension of land.
It is one village after all.
Well, we don't really have time for tours. This isn't exactly.
No. We don't need tours. We can walk around on our own.
We're very independent, yes.
And they sort of like do some hand signals and a pair of guards show up and they say, "Oh, just make sure that they don't come to any harm. Let them look around the grounds. Just make sure they don't go into our work site. You know, there's a lot of hazards, and you're not equipped for going there unless you're planning on joining us. I mean, at this point, the administrator sizes both of you up and down and says, "Well, you are a strapping young lad, so if you would like to work here, perhaps we can, for some extra money, you can certainly come work here. As for you, kind sir," sort of looks at you, frail and barely sort of walking, "we need as many young blood doing some very hard chores. You probably should probably relax in your old age."
I don't work. And my friend Babel here is very busy in the grove. So thank you. But no. We just came to say hello.
Okay. And they sort of, after some more small chat, kind of dismiss you, and you're allowed to sort of roam around, but the guards will sort of prevent you from going into the work sites. But you are free to go through essentially the tents where all the workers probably sleep, like sort of the barracks area and the general camp area.
Babel would like to look for and take note of how the living quarters are, kind of the treatment of the workers here. If any of them seem particularly like mistreated, or even that like they don't want to be here or they're kind of forced to be here. If any of them ever sort of seem to be not allowed to talk about certain things amongst themselves, kind of like conversations getting hushed as the guards approach, or sort of like wary looks, kind of keeping out for signs of like maybe even like if anyone like flinches as the guards get too close, and also where a lot of the workers seem to be from, if maybe they're local or come from like countries away even.
Okay, so at this point, give me a perception check, or if you think there's another skill or ability that would be useful, you can certainly persuade me to use that instead.
I think perception sounds just fine.
Okay.
Hey.
All right. So you notice at the camp, the barracks, there's a slight hierarchy. It's not very. It's basically three types of areas. The general workers area, which seems to be a general sort of mining. You see just sort of broad strokes at this point before I get into any specifics. You see that where the workers are, it's almost like this communal big, like lots of small individual or double tents gathered around a big communal space where there's like this one bonfire area. And for the most part, it seems to be all the workers are at work at the moment, so there's no one there at the moment. There's like maybe one or two, seems like they're spouses of some kind, and there's like maybe 2 or 3 children that are very, very young. They seem to just sort of be milling around doing day chores of like, okay, just feeding ourselves, maintaining some of the camp. It seems like the spouses are hired on as like cleaning staff. There doesn't seem to be any immediate sign of mistreatment or anything of that sort. The area that looks a little more regimented and they're almost neatly lined seems to be the guards' barracks, and those are very plain, bare bones. It seems to be that the guards probably share the same bonfire as the workers. And then there's this one big, very good location, seems to be like a central command tent that is it's sort of the biggest and also the least dense in terms of population per tent, where there's like 3 or 4 people sharing a big space. And it also seems, as you sort of try to go and sneak in, the guards are like, no, I'm sorry, this is you can't go in there.
I would like to use my magic item, if that's okay.
What is your magic item?
It is a figure of wondrous power. It's a onyx dog. So I kind of.
I will let you do that in a moment.
Okay, sure.
So aside from the general broad strokes, with your perception check, it seems like for the most part, all of them, just from the style of their tents, what clothes that are hanging out to dry, laundry, etc., that all of them are secondary. Not a single one seems to be either from Banga or even from the other places that some of the villagers have come from, like Registan, or just, they seem to all be secondary. And from the general demeanor of the camp, it seems to be for the most part that it is hard work, but it's an opportunity. A lot of them seem, from very quick chats where the guards are sort of like giving you a distance, but they can still overhear everything, that the spouses say that, oh, if we were back home, we couldn't even make a quarter of what we're getting here. It's hard being away from home, but it's a lot of money.
Interesting.
And now back to you and your dog. What would you like to do with the onyx dog?
So I was thinking when we're near that larger tent, and they're not like really looking at me, I just kind of want to drop the onyx dog statue, which turns it into an actual black dog, and have it like run into the tent and see.
Are you doing this literally in front of the guards?
Yeah, it's kind of, yeah. Well, I'm not dropping it in front of the guards. I just want this dog to run into the tent and see if it can grab anything suspicious.
Okay, tell me how you are doing it without the guards seeing what you're doing.
I think I want to sleight of hand it.
Okay, give me a sleight of hand.
Rashi just like sneezes and a dog
It's so bad. It's so bad.
No.
Oh no, Prachi.
I will say, the guards don't see you drop it, but then they're like, hey, what's in there? What animal is in there? And they start going into the tent, And
Oh,
does your dog have hit points?
yeah, it does.
Okay. So how many hit points does it have?
Oh my gosh, hold on one sec. Let me pull it up. I took this item. I had to use it at some point. Um. So, it has.
Let me see if it's on your character sheet. I might be able to.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, it can speak common. I forgot about that.
Nice.
Okay, cool. So it's hit point. It has 5 hit points.
Yeah, they just sort of attack it with their clubs, and it turns back into a dog, and they're into the figurine,
Yeah,
and they're like,
statue.
what the heck? And then
Sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, can I have that back, please?
What fell out?
they sort of look at you. They look at you and they say, "This is some weird magic. No, we're gonna be keeping this."
No, that's my doggy. I'm going to. Can I roll persuade to try to get it back?
Sure, with disadvantage.
Okay.
Could Babel actually assist with this and maybe try to remove the disadvantage by reminding the guards that this is personal property of Prachi's and they don't really have the authority to take it?
Sure, it's a flat roll then.
Okay, thanks.
All right, Prachi.
Thanks, bud.
I wish I was there. I'd replace it with.
Oh, it's so bad.
They say, unfortunately,
doggy, no.
Unfortunately, it's possible that it saw certain things it shouldn't have seen, so we're just gonna hang on to it to assess whether.
I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
To assess whether it has. You know what? I think it's time you go back to your village at the moment.
Is there like a 3-day waiting period? I could come collect it after. It's kind of important. My daddy gave it to me.
You need to go now. You need to go now. They just sort of are like, go. And now we will cut to the upstream team. Okay, so if I could have all of you roll perception checks, but I think what would be more interesting is tell me what you are trying to do and what sort of a skill you would like to use.
So the first thing I do is who's more perceptive, the paladin or the rogue? General question.
Oh.
You're both muted.
Yeah.
I'm going to guidance somebody. I just want to guidance the person with the worst perception check.
Okay, so
I have a 2.
Okay, so I guidance Nerdy. I guidance Serva. And with mine, I'm actually also going to cast Detect Magic.
Okay.
So I'm just going to look around, but I'm also going to kind of concentrate on seeing if anyone's futzing about with the natural order of things. Futzing about with the natural order of things. It's a technical term.
Okay. It's funny you should ask that, Babita. Because yes, as you follow the stream, you eventually find this gigantic dam that has been built, as well as what looks to be several guards and several another work camp about almost 1 or 2 days ahead of you. It takes you 1 or 2 days to travel, and you see another work camp, and there is a dam being built, and due to the dam being built, the water has been redirected.
We need to bomb that dam.
It's the oldest trick in the book. The damn dam. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it.
And are you trying to be stealthy as you find all of this out?
I assumed we were approaching it at night.
There's nothing with your detect magic. There's nothing in particular that is magical. It just seems to be there's another work camp along the same foothills which are interconnected. And
Oh, sorry.
And this work camp is built specifically for the dam, as well as it seems to be that they're also mining for something with this dam. You don't, without pressing your luck further and spending more time, this is just the information you have as you are about a couple of days away from the village. Which at this point, just quickly flip-flopping back, every time, do you go back every day to inquire about your onyx dog? Prachi?
Yes, absolutely.
They say
3
they're still,
times if I can.
They say they're still inspecting it.
It's a very small statue. I don't know what's left to inspect. It's very small.
Okay. So do you stay a little longer to press your luck, or do you come back with that information?
I always need more. Are you talking to her or us?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I am talking to the upriver dam.
The dam team.
The dam
well, the
team.
dam team.
The dam team.
I always want more information. It's almost like some critical flaw. If you were to say it was a flaw, it might be one of mine.
Okay, then I will need a stealth check from all of you to see if you can...
I'm going to assume the paladin is the least stealthy.
By the way, remember, Leona, that you have a crit that from chat.
Actually, I bless all 3 of us, so we just get. Oh, is that ability checks? Ooh.
It is a group check, so so as long as at least 2 of you succeed, you should be okay. Oh, okay. So there's the. Okay, so I'm
going to replace mine with a 17, which makes it a 21.
Okay, and are you using your crit, Babita? Or are you okay? Then Nerdy, you are fine. Which is good.
I got a little too bold.
Yeah. As you were approaching, you sort of walk in just as a guard is coming, but either Sunil or Babita just kind of like physically drag you behind and be like, no.
It's a dual mom arm.
Yeah. And the things you overhear them talking about, again, you hear something about those damn Kermits. And which you would not have heard, you would not have time to hear the same thing. You just hear those damn Kermits. You don't know what it means. And
even I don't.
Actually, I'm gonna say, are you casting certain spells to hear what they say? Because they're talking in Secondary.
They're talking in what?
Secondary, which you don't know.
Okay. I hear them talking. Can I silently cast? Can I rather quietly cast a spell?
I'm gonna say that after the first few times, you realize you probably need to cast it, and you can just cast it, and we're not doing real time.
Yeah. So I cast it so I can understand.
You hear it as those damn frogs.
They're calling the people frogs, everybody.
And
those damn people.
And you hear things about ores and copper and iron and things like that. And that's about as much information you get before you realize that the longer you stay, the longer you will get caught. You all convene and you can share the information that you both have gathered.
And I just burst into the schoolhouse and I say, the damn people think the people are frogs. So we've got to murder all of the damn people. We should probably talk tactics. I realize that. I adjust my breastplate. Should probably.
Sunil, as you think about frogs, you remember this old parable about something to do with how do you cook frogs?
In a pot of milk.
I'm vegan.
No. Shh. Babel knows this.
Yes.
And Babel knows this because I know this.
Yes, so you can certainly say that as I'm assuming discussion is happening, so you can share that information.
You put a frog in a vat of water and you start to heat it up slowly so that by the time the pot is boiling the frog to death, it has acclimated to the heat and is not aware of what is going on.
I feel better because I just rolled a 20 on my portent, but this is a terrible thing. Oh.
So what you're saying is we need to shit or get off the pot.
And I just real shittily look at all the fortifications that I had people building, and I was like, that'll be useful.
Can someone roll me 66? Whoever would like to do that. Maybe another person.
I'll grab it, or if someone else got it.
Looks like
I got it.
Looks like Babita's doing, or whoever. Okay. As you're all taking in these things, food supplies are getting even lower. You now know the cause of why your water is getting rediverted, but while your water is fine because Babel is there to help with the water supply, your food sources are getting harder. And you start to notice that the children, as you are studying, are unable to concentrate and are starting to make really silly mistakes. And you notice that most of the adults are also having trouble concentrate as they're giving whatever rations they have to their children. And even then, that's not quite enough.
Everybody is hungry.
Everybody's suffering from a level of exhaustion.
All right.
Babel will share with everyone also about the work camp providing an income that the people would not be able to get in their homeland. So he has some reservations about destroying the working camps because of all of the people that it will also hurt, aside from just the people village.
But it's a dodecahedron plan, don't you see? It's like it's not a pyramid plan, everyone. It's a dodecahedron plan, not a pyramid scheme. They just move on. They're predators. They burn. They starve people out. Tell them that there's opportunity. Move on. Starve the next people out. Tell them there's opportunity, etc., until maybe, honestly, one could picture an entire global catastrophe happening, something that may just happen if you keep doing this relentlessly for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Nobody would ever just wait that long to do anything about it.
I know, right? Like, you wouldn't think that we'd all be jerks. It's global warming, everybody. It's climate change. It's a metaphor.
I, for one, would always rather make a new friend than a new enemy. What if I think that if this land was under our stewardship, the people who know it best, we could easily provide a good life for those people that are there, where they wouldn't be tied into this chain of events. I think if we're going to start a revolution here, we need to start where the numbers are. And that seems to me to be where the numbers are.
Wait, the work camp or all the starving people?
The work camp.
Oh, but they seem happy.
We need to make them happier.
Or do we make them unhappy?
I would say yes.
I think that we will try to appeal to their better nature. And maybe, yes, we can all come to an agreement that the trading consortium is not the best. And perhaps it was gambled away. We know that much. Perhaps it was not for very much money and we can buy ourselves out of our own contract.
That's very true.
My noble Babel, I have never once disagreed with you in the 100+ years that you have lived here. But I hope you're right. But
There are too many of us in this village who are too young or too old and infirmed to take these people head on. So we need to basically make like a larva inside of a corpse and eat them from the inside out.
I smacked Prachi in the back of the leg with my cane. Think for yourself.
Speaking of which, there have been recent animal attacks too on the village, as over the last few weeks, there has been some logging being done by the secondary work camp, and they've started working on the edges of the forest. And because of the logging, there's been, and also the river being diverted, there has been creatures that are now being displaced, and they're hungry. You lose about 3 villagers to animal attacks.
I trained them so well. Babylon, how are you looking?
Getting grayer by the day. Yeah.
Is the people tree still alive?
The people tree is fine, but Babita and Babel, that cacophony that was quieting, it's now becoming a deafening silence.
So, something I learned in a time that I don't talk about is that you can blow stuff up with fermentation processes. And I just real slowly turned to Prachi.
This is true. I've had quite a few bottles explode.
Remember the incident with the eyebrows that were gone for like several weeks?
That's not the toilet incident, by the way. That's a separate incident from the toilet incident.
Side note, I am a brewer and this does happen a lot. Yes, I agree. So we're working from a lot of different angles here, and I think we need to sum it up and figure which one we're going with. Do we just leave and seek our fortunes elsewhere? Do we try to turn these people's opinions towards us and show them that we can provide them with a good life and they don't need these people managing them, moving them all over the place? Or do we just attack them flat out?
Sarma? Oh, go ahead, Babel.
Sorry, actually, yes, Sarma, you have not spoken in a moment. What do you think? What plans do you have?
We can't go at them too directly. We, as you said, we have to concern ourselves with feeding our people, and if we do want to go the route of revolution, we need the people in the work camps with us, but we must get rid of the dam one way or another.
Maybe just a crack in the dam so that it doesn't destroy the dam, because that would be apocalyptic. But something to allow some water through.
I was gonna actually ask anyone who is proficient in nature check to make a nature check at this point.
I guidance whoever's making a nature check.
That's
hey, you don't need it.
Okay, so you know that at its current, because it's been several weeks and now sort of months, if you try to basically cut down the dam right this moment, this entire valley will flood, and that will be even worse than not having the dam having the dam in the first place.
Big rip.
Well, if our master brewer is precise enough, I look over and Prachi's drunk. Damn it.
Makes me more precise.
Yeah, we could perhaps just crack it a little to allow water through. Right now, we're all about to die of starvation. And I mean, is that possible, DM? Can we crack it just to have water come through and make it a bitch to repair?
It depends on how good the workmanship is of the dam. Because if the workmanship is shoddy, then it doesn't matter. A crack will buy you time to leave. But the valley will still flood. Including the camps, including your village, including the forest. It will just flood this entire... You are on a flood plain. It's called a flood plain. Go ahead.
I think that we should go to the working camps and convince the Sikarandi people so that they can be a part of the village without being a part of the trading organization. And I think that we should try to drive them out and tip over our pot of boiling water onto their heads.
Is that a metaphor? Or...
I really like where you went with it at the end there. Noble.
Thank you.
Noble. Babble.
Okay, so it seems to be that you were coming to a task or a plan. What exactly is it?
If we all do agree on trying to recruit the Sikarandi people from the working camps, Babel will do her ambassador thing and start making visits to the camps under guise of just checking in. It is another part of the village, and she is a caretaker of the people tree, which kind of extends to the whole village. She wants to make sure everything is okay. Keep an eye out. Try to get up a rapport of being trustworthy with the guards, so maybe they kind of not watch her as closely whenever she's there, even maybe leaving her weapons with them as she comes in, so that she can get to a point where she isn't accompanied if possible. And she would like to strike up friendships with the working people in the camps. Talk to them, get to know them, learn their families, learn their struggles, and start appealing to sort of their better nature. She genuinely feels for these people, and she does want like the best for them. But she does not like this trading company that has come in. So she would like to start to plant the seeds of we can do things without this company over us.
Okay. Does anybody accompany or assist or do other similar things? Surma.
Surma will start accompanying as a bodyguard.
And I'll work with... I'll make sure... I don't know if it's okay, but I'll still ask Prachi to brew hard, Prachi.
I'm always brewing. Prachi also would like to set up a festival, to not necessarily like a food festival, because we don't have a lot of that right now, but a festival to show off our children and how much they've learned and how smart they are and how well cultured they are, and basically show this off to the working folks of the camp, to be like, hey, these could be your kids. Your kids could be very, very successful and enriched if they were to join our town.
So is it you invite them to come to the village, or do you take the children to the work camps and sort of have a performance there?
I don't know. Which one do you guys think would be...
I think we should bring them to the village. Bring the workers to the village.
Be inviting, yeah. Welcome them into our home.
We decorate the peepal tree with fantasy Christmas lights and yeah.
Make some makeshift benches out of the wood from the docks that we don't use anymore.
Okay, I'm gonna say that Babel, the sort of overtime and everything with Surma, you just that happens, and I will at some point ask you for a charisma related check. which I will get to in a moment. I will say that you can either you can either start you can either give you can these two events simultaneously. You can give the either advantage, or you can both make separate rolls. But as the day comes and there's a particular festival, I will actually ask Babita, what festival do you think this would be?
Sure. I'm trying to think.
Quiet festival.
I mean, that's Babita's thing.
Shall we say it is a harvest festival of some kind?
Or what about like a friendship festival? Like all the kids from the village are making friends with the adults. So it's almost like a wacky sort of festival where it's like, hello, people from the worker village, be our friends, and like the kids are almost like charming these adults.
Yeah. Okay.
We made you macaroni pictures.
I was about to say Babel's going.
And it's
Babel's going haywire, making little druid craft like flower crowns and bracelets for everyone to hand out.
Yeah. And as the workers are invited to the village for this festival, basically the entire work camp is there. There is the guards are all sort of in the background. They're not really participating. They're sort of just being alert and wary. The administrators actually, only one of them shows up. The rest of them seem to stay back at the camp. And all the workers are there. They enjoy the respite. They are delighted by the children. In fact, I'm not even going to make you roll. This is something that all of you collectively have done that I didn't account for, and that is brilliant. And the festival goes off without a hitch. It is amazing. And about several days and weeks later, you notice that as you go on your visits, that people are starting to back up. They're not quite backing up, like they're not quite there. It seems like there's a slow dwindling of activity. One evening, as you're all back and getting ready for bed, you see a lone figure approaching. It is the administrator that watched the festival come up and say, I couldn't let my conscience sit with this any longer, but I must warn you that if you can, you must leave. I will, as soon as I leave, I'm sure if I go back, they'll know that it was me, and I'm just right now heading to Goldak to get a ship back home, but I'm leaving. But I can't watch and see the genocide that will happen. When they leave, they're going to open the dam. You have 2 days. And the stranger leaves.
Oh my god.
So, because we're getting very close to time, what I would like to do is very quickly come up with a way of making sure the dam doesn't crack. You have, actually, I will say, it wasn't 2 days, it was several days. So you have some sort of a plan of some kind to, the camp is still there. They're going to leave at the time that, basically when they all leave, they're going to open the dam as they leave.
Is it a permanent flood though? Like we couldn't take the village and go stand up there, and once they're gone, can we repopulate this area?
You could. You can certainly do that, but your entire village will be flooded and you'd have to rebuild. And the forest might not recover as quickly.
Does that mean Babel might die?
That is up to, it's one of those, I would say no, but if Babel has decided to connect herself to the tree, then yes, I suppose, but
I think if the people tree specifically dies, then not to say it would like kill Babel instantly, but they would become so heartbroken that they would pull a where the red fern grows and just kind of die of heartbreak.
Oh, it's the Natalie Portman from Star Wars.
Yes.
But question from that administrator: did we get the day that this is happening?
Yes, it is appropriate amount of time for you to figure out something to do. So within a week.
All right, we stealthily take the dam and we prevent them.
Say.
Is the dam? Is it open or closed, or if you have control of it, can you?
Basically, they say that corners were cut, and the dam, it won't take much to crack it open.
I meant, if we are in command of the dam, can we open it just a little to slowly let water out?
Is it an all or nothing kind of dam, or
It would take careful time and consideration. It is shoddy workmanship, so you would have to figure out a very precise way of very slowly releasing it such that the pressure doesn't build up. However, the problem is that will be the last camp to go, so if you're there, you're going to have to fight that camp that is also there.
I have the ability to charm people, so perhaps I could charm the last people. I mean,
I do as well.
And also, the one last thing that the stranger said before leaving was, most of the workers were not happy with this. However, it is hard for them. It's hard for them to say no to this money that is helping their families.
I have a question for Babel.
Yes.
Is this a hallucination I had? But we moved the people tree once, did we not?
I believe that we did, yes.
What?
You were there, Sunil. You just don't remember because you're old. Do you think the people tree would be strong enough to support the dam?
Do I? DM?
Sorry. Sorry, I kind of was reading something. Yes? What was the
okay.
question?
If we ask the people tree to do what it did a very long time ago and uproot itself and then walk over to the dam and plant itself in front of it, would it be able to support the dam?
Like grow into the dam and hold it out and redirect our beloved river?
Restructure the dam?
Yeah.
How do you go about doing this? Do you recall who was the last person how this tree actually moved?
It was Babita, which is, we planned out that it was Babita who asked the tree very politely to move from the outskirts of the town into the center of town, because Babel and Kieran kept sleeping through every single one of the elder meetings.
And it's actually a tree. Like it's actually more like a treant. Like it is a tree that will get up and move. Yeah.
Okay.
The people tree has always been the center of our town, and it's been our job to protect it, and we can still do that, but maybe it should pay us back for all the love we've given it over the years.
So I will say that Babel will confer with Kieran and with Babita and see, like, as much as we know about the tree, do we think that it could withstand the dam? If it roots itself deep enough, could it even like withstand like a flood of water to kind of maybe even not demolish the village so much if the dam gates do open up all at once? And if everything seems to be okay, then we'll start a little kind of ritual prayer circle kind of circle around the tree and ask it to stand and move for us.
Yeah, Babita. Do you... Okay. So, Babita, as you sort of remember how you got the tree to move, it was almost like a desperate plea. You touch the tree and you reach out and you focus this time on the roots rather than the tree itself. You realize that to do something like that, it would need to grow so many roots, travel such a huge and you notice that there is a very big root system that is interconnected with the forest. It is with the forest. The people tree is the forest. However, it needs a little more help. It needs more belief, more strength in it. It needs more, essentially, mechanically, so more magical oomph from casters to also take part in this ritual. Right now, it is just now you, Babita, at the moment, just doing this. It is Babita's communion with the tree, so you know that you need more juice, essentially.
Would the best way be for like Babita to like do a hunger fast, or should she do something like?
Or ask your friends.
Oh, of course. And Babita will. She won't break her vow of silence for now, and she'll leave everyone over.
All right. A little magical oomph, you say. I take out my dice, my blank dice, and I focus, and I take the natural 20 that I divined, and I take the one dice, and I just flick it at the tree. Actually, no, I don't. I quietly bury it at its roots, and I divine a natural 20 of energy down into it.
Okay. So I will set the scene and you all can add to it. But as you all start doing the ritual on the day of, you know that this is when it would be the most useful. The entire work camp has already... Yeah?
Oh, there you are. You're back.
Oh, you cut out.
Oh, okay.
Start from the ritual describing it, the day of.
Yeah, so the day of, the camp has already evacuated. You all, whoever has the power to give it, and also with your natural 20 rooted in it, you all touch the bark, and you feel almost like as if you can see it. You see this energy, this natural raw power of the forest, of nature, just go down straight to the roots, and the roots starting to branch out and more roots just following. It's almost like you're following at the speed of light with it as it starts initially slow, and it starts picking up, and you feel all the power from the forest sort of channeling into this tree, all these people, and it starts moving now at light speed towards where the dam is, almost a day or two away from you by foot. And it starts, you see, and I'm gonna say with Babita's special vow of the entangling nature's wrath, you see suddenly bursting from the ground these vines and roots as they start to fortify this dam, as you see 3 or 4 people trying to basically break it down, but it's not breaking down. And as they try to smash one vine, another vine shoots up, and it gets to the point where they get frustrated and say, this thing will rot anyway. Whatever, we're done with this place. Screw them. And they start to leave, as this now very shoddy dam construction is nothing but vines and bramble that is forming this thick layer against this dam. And all of you see it, experience it.
Did we get carried by it? Like, is that how we all got here? We got carried by the tree?
No. You see it in your mind's eye.
Oh,
The
gotcha.
tree tells us.
Yeah, like as if you're seeing the roots and vines and tangles and everything.
That's beautiful.
I think this
is immensely proud of Babita.
I think this calls for a party in Babita's honor and the honor of the people tree.
Yes.
And
There's
as
a new
you
festival
all,
we need to have.
As you all slowly come back into your senses, Kieran does not move.
Oh. No.
Get the sad bottle, Pratchett.
Babita.
Get the red one.
And Babita and Babel, you knew it was Kieran's time.
It's been 500 or 600 years.
Leona.
You can try
Babel, yeah.
Leon. You can try Babita. However, you know that it was time.
Yeah. Babel will go over and just kind of very gently kind of like move, kind of just smooth out like the hair and the fur so that he looks a little more like he's sleeping. Say a few words, a few prayers to the people tree, kind of thanking him a promise to continue in his footsteps. And she kind of afterwards turns to Babita and she signs to her, says he's very proud of you.
I'm very proud.
And if there's the time for it, which I'm not sure if there is right now, she'll start making preparations for a funeral if nothing else is going on. I imagine that we might want to go to the dam and look at it and see if we can slowly start filtering the water back into our land, into the village. And there's a spell somewhere that she can do that basically prevents Homeboy from like decomposing.
Gentle repose, but we are getting close to time. So I will say you have a funeral in the way you want to respect your mentor. In addition, with the dam fortified with the roots of the people, you can, at your own convenience and time, figure out how to naturally get the river back to its original course. And there is much celebrations to be had, but also remembering what had happened beyond. And I'm sorry this got rushed, but this is our game.
Yay.
Real quick, it was amazing, but Prachi and I now have several fermentation bombs that are down in the basement, and we're just like, shit, what do we do now?
I think it's time for a party.
I do like to imagine as the water kind of like rushes back in to fill out where the dried river was, at the same time, all of the color rushes back into Babel, and she looks as she did before the trading agreement was made. So very like Ghibli, yes.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna quickly go around the table, and this is basically where who are you? Where could we find you on the internet? And just very quickly, sort of that, and also maybe what your favorite part of this one shot was, or likes or dislike, whatever. We will start with Prachi, our I guess sort of the next in line, kind of second or third removed cousin of said landowner. Oh, thank you,
okay.
Crystal.
So my name is Sam again, and you can find me on Twitter at SamUliano1. or on Instagram as needw1tch. I also am co-hosting a new podcast to help GM and players learn to get into character and learn how to write worlds and all that. It's called Sounds Dicey, and you can find that on Twitter for sounds_dicey. And so my favorite part, I think, was just the beautiful imagery of the vines securing the dam in place. That was very, very
really
beautiful. Thank you so much, Miriam.
Thank you. And Nerdy.
Hi, yeah, I'm Nerdy Titty. You can find me on Twitter at Nerdy Titty. It's Sunday. Tomorrow night I will be playing in Side Quest, the first episode of Side Quest for Airlock, and then Thursday is Millennium Nights. So please come join us for that. It will be a lot of fun. It is a hacked version of Masks, so it's Power Rangers, Super Sentai style game. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm excited for it. And I think Samil saying "damn" all the time is my favorite part.
Damn people.
Those damn.
Okay, Babita.
Definitely my favorite
Leona.
part. And that's okay. Definitely my favorite part was the damn people and the people. I really appreciated Sunil. I think he was my favorite part of the whole bit. I loved everyone's, great ideas and like teamwork, and everyone was just so good, and it was it all just filled my heart. So I'm glad to be sleep deprived for this. Bash the bash. And I am Liliana Maple. You can find me on Twitter. There you can find out about all the things that I am doing.
Okay, Mike.
I'm Mike, and you can find me at Cynicalese on Twitter. I don't do any. This was actually my first stream ever, and I really enjoyed
Welcome
myself.
To the party.
Thank you. I get it. And I will say there's a person that I do play D&D with on the regular. Her name is Sarah, and she is my DM, and she was on the 4 a.m. stream yesterday. And you can find her at the DM Sarah on Twitter, and she's amazing and writes her own stuff. And I really enjoyed, as much as I enjoyed the stream, I also just enjoyed when we were figuring out our bonds and flaws and everything, and our ideals, and how much world building went into what was a 4-hour one shot. Like I could play this setting now, like on the regular. This setting was super fun to get into, and I really loved everybody. I love Prachi. I love everybody, and I'm in the corner getting drunk, making bombs with Prachi. I'm really happy we didn't have to go the super violent route.
I was ready.
Yeah. And for as a spoiler, Sunil's background was he was a former military horseman, horse soldier from northern steppe tribes, and so he wanted to be a little bit more violent in the back of his head somewhere.
Okay, and last but not least, the cat in charge, Joe.
Hello. I'm Joe. I'm also spray paint. I'm also cat. It just kind of depends. You can find me at Sleepless Seymour with only 2 S's in the middle on Twitter, on Instagram. I have an Instagram for my cosplay, which is cospraint, COSPRAINT. I think I did that right. I also have a podcast that I do weekly, which is currently going through a little bit of rebranding right now. You can find on Twitter at _Barovian_mess. That is DM'd by the lovely Mustangs Art, who is also happened to be named Sarah. And that's a gothic horror sort of thing if you're interested in that kind of games. I mostly do cosplay. This was also my first stream that I've ever done. And it was a lot of fun. I had a really good time with you guys, especially for like I'm sure that most of you who do Welcome to the Party have known each other for a bit, but like this was my first time meeting all of you within about a week ago, and I really, really enjoy how well that we kind of clicked and hit things off, and it made for a really, really good stream. I'm also very proud to be sleep deprived with all of you here.
Yeah. Likewise.
And my favorite part, to be maybe a little bit the darker parts, the reaction to the frog metaphor, and the kind of realization, as well as the reaction and the realization to us realizing that they were going to open the dam on us. That was a very palpable emotion that I could feel. And also the runaround of all the bureaucracy was super enjoyable. Just like being at the DMV, but worse.
And I will say, I really appreciated how the team basically split in half. Half of the team wanted a good ending. All the rest of us were like, no, bomb shit. Make the bombs. Make the bombs just in case.
Okay, so we are actually getting very, very close to time for the next stream. So I'm going to cut to the chase of first of all, thanking all of you. Right, I have to talk about myself as the GM. Okay, so yes, so I'm Miriam. You can find me on Twitter at media_junkie. I am the writer of this particular setting, Sarzameen. You can find out more information about it on my Twitter. As well as the Musafirs podcast, which is set in this world. As a producer now, I would like to say that we are currently sitting at $2,840.16, which is great. We have about now 14 hours to go, I think. There's a slight bug of sorts with it's not 36 hours, it's actually more like about 16 or 14 hours. It's really late, I can't do math, but all of this will end with our last show that will begin at 8 o'clock till 10 o'clock, 3V. Yes, I will let you promote the finale in a moment because I need to get the prizes done. So I'm gonna start that right away as we're wrapping up. The prizes that we have for our giveaway will be a 2 months Sirenscape Super Siren subscription. Did I actually base this correctly? I think I did. Yes, that is pretty awesome prize. As well as a handmade dice bag by Hoop and Loom, and surprise dice and a sticker mailer from So Nerdware. And I'm going to start the giveaway right now. And the key word to enter this giveaway is resist. Exclamation mark RESIST, resist. Because resist. Yes, please, Leona, please tell me how the finale is going to happen before we end the stream.
Well, hi everyone. I'm very excited to announce that our finale, we typically run a show called Vibrant Visible Victorious that I normally produce, and it's our all BIMPOC POC one-shot series. However, today we're producing a special edition of Vibrant Visible Victorious. It is going to be a 2-hour finale at 8 p.m. EST. We are playing Masks, Iron Red Soldiers. I am going to be GMing for basically my second time ever. I am terrified, and I'm very thrilled to announce that the one and only B. Dave Walters will be joining us. So we have an amazing celebrity guest who is going to help bring us home and get us those $5,000. I'm hoping we'll have that money raised by then. So please do join us tonight for the finale, and please stick around and keep supporting us, and please donate. Bash the Fash, support races. It's going to be great. Thank you.
All right, we will now go to break while the next show sets up, and stay tuned. It's going to be an amazing wizardly affair as we do another 5e game. All right, everybody wave. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.